The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Yo, what up? This is Rocky Asuka Romero of Chaos, and you are listening to Keepin It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the ace of podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the ace of podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy, Donovan, and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith and Leah, formerly of Tunnel Talk. On today's show, we'll review Resurgence and the first 2 nights of Best of the Super Junior 32 and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chop Tea store, chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. There's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order. That's chopped-tees.com/KI Strong Style. And if you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And like you heard, we are joined by Leah, formerly of Tunnel Talk. If you've been listening to Tunnel Talk, she's been talking about
formerly
jumping ship, coming over to the Keeping It Strong Style, and it's official. Leah, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad for the opportunity. I'm leaving my old home behind, and I really think that the 3 of us are going to make a great ship product.
Yeah. Before we got on the air, Leah's like, "Yeah, I'm here for my tryout," and I was like, "Tryout?" There's no oversight or quality control with this network. If you want to be on Keeping It Strong Style, you just tell us, and you're going to be on Keeping It Strong Style.
So I'm just formally announcing that I'm joining KISS.
I also assume that it works both ways. If I want to be part of Tunnel Talk, I'm going to be part of Tunnel Talk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And enjoy coming over.
I don't think I'm witty enough to be on that show.
We're not really either.
No, y'all are awesome. Big fan of Tunnel Talk. Love having you guys here on the network, and happy to have you this week on Keeping It Strong Style. I figured with the Young Bucks being on Resurgence, and there's a lot of AEW people on this show, it'd be a great one to bring you on in for. So every time we have a new guest, we like to get their wrestling background, how they got started watching and wrestling in New Japan. So, you know, I'm sure some of your listeners know, but I think some of ours probably don't know. But how did you get into watching wrestling?
So I am a very, very late convert in spring 2020 when there was literally nothing else to do because we were all trapped in our house. One of our close friends started spamming Orange Cassidy gifs to the group chat. And after a while, I was like, what is this man's deal? And so we got linked to a couple Chikara matches, and it was so like we really got charmed by the comedy of it all. And so we started tuning into AEW, and it was right with the Jericho feud. And I know that wasn't like thrilling for other people, but it was like a really good place to come into because it was so broad and funny that we were hooked after that.
You're talking about the Mimosa Mayhem.
Yeah. I think we started watching wrestling in like early August 2020, and Mimosa Mayhem was like late either late August or early September. So it was I think it was our first pay-per-view, and it was like, we were like, this is crazy.
That's so crazy. I was wrestling at that time. So like, that's such a I don't know. It's like a blast from the past.
Yeah.
And we were also there at that show live.
I was not.
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot you weren't there, Josh. But yeah, me and Rich were there for the most of mayhem. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to make the towns. No, I don't know. I didn't go for some reason. A couple questions I have about that. Number one, I think it is so weird that you guys were converted via Chikara. Like, did you? Yeah. Number one, did you scratch the Chikara itch any further than that, or was it that just an introductory to AEW?
We watched. There wasn't that many available on YouTube, and we didn't really like pay. I think we dipped into like what we could find on the internet. I don't think we ended up paying for high spots to access the rest of it. But very quickly after falling for Orange Cassidy, we started falling for Chuck Taylor and Best Friends. So we really got into the gentleman, like the Gentlemen's Club.
This makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
AEW is just Chikara coded for you guys.
Yes, absolutely.
You guys are just watching Fire Ant out there. That's what you're really doing.
Yeah, and that's why.
Had you guys seen?
No, I was just gonna say that's why the enjoyment factor has kind of gone down lately, because the proportion of ex WWE to ex Chikara have really gone in the wrong direction.
Had you guys seen Wet Hot American Summer prior to this gimmick, or no? Did that like ring a bell?
Yeah, I knew I could play. I knew that he was doing that and the costume from Drive, but I think like it wasn't my favorite movie, so it wasn't. It like I knew the reference, but it wasn't because of them. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Hot take. I just watched that movie for the first time. I didn't love it either.
Yeah.
One last question I have, because I'm so intrigued by this whole thing. This is the most involved I've ever been in this interview. Once you guys got in at the jumping point 2020, did you go back and rewatch anything from the 2019 era or even All In prior to that?
We watched big things that people like swore we were gonna love, like Stadium Stampede, and there was a battle royale with Orange Cassidy where he, like, I think it was for the Double or Nothing, where like they had to get the big chip from the top. So like we watched targeted stuff that people like were like, you have to watch this, but not in any completeness.
You guys might want to subscribe to Max.
Go looking for Chuck Taylor matches.
Nice. And so I know you don't follow New Japan a lot, but what's been your experience with New Japan so far?
So for a long time it was just Forbidden Door. Whenever we used to think about it as like AEW was girls' camp and Forbidden Door was like when the boys would raid the camp, like they would come across the lake and raid us. And so we would get really excited to see, who was coming over. But that was, for a long time, that was the only experience I had. But recently, since befriending Trish and receiving so much New Japan information through producing the Trish and Sarah Wrestling podcast, I now am aware of several people like Naito and Goto and like all these people that I'm just like, oh yes, they're my friend's friend.
It's funny that you say it's them raiding AEW when in fact it's the other way around usually.
And you mentioned like you are the producer of Trish and Sarah, so are you just pretty much like a fly on the wall during that whole process?
Yeah, so I log on with them, I start them off, and then they record, and I'm usually doing chores and listening into my headphones, and then they finish that. I tell them that they did an amazing job, and then I take their audio tracks and like sync it up for them.
I thought they just sent it to you. I didn't know you were there live each time.
Well, I like to cheerlead my girls.
Listen, they should like refer to you every once in a while. Be like, Leah, can we get an answer on that? Like Google shit for them, and they're like, oh, actually. And then you just fade out, and that's it. Like, and then you're not there for the rest of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to try it and just see what they do.
Or even if they don't invite you to do it, just jump in and be like, you're wrong. And then just get out of there.
It couldn't stop me.
That's hilarious. So, Leah, who is your favorite wrestler right now?
The Young Bucks, I think right now are the last ones left of my favorites. Yeah, I'm primarily a Young Bucks person, I think, at this point. Kenny, Hangman, kind of, the elite stuff. I'm really into Ricochet recently, but my special little guy tier is kind of depleted.
How does it feel to have a close personal relationship with your favorite wrestlers?
Oh my God. So we interviewed the Young Bucks in December, and I think I had like an ulcer developing because I was so stressed out about it, because I was like, I don't need the Young Bucks to look me in my eyes and hate me. Like, that would be the worst thing ever. But it went pretty well. We made everybody tell us that we sounded normal, so I feel pretty good about that.
No, you guys were great. I thought it was a really great interview. I know you guys were nervous about it and how it's going to go, but yeah, I thought it was awesome. It got aggregated. So.
Being mentioned by Dave Meltzer in his newsletter is quite the trip.
The first time, I told you guys about this off the air, but like the first time I heard that the Young Bucks were getting interviewed, for some reason I thought it was Trish and Sarah. I was like, yeah, we're going to get this hard-hitting journalism. It's going to be very distinct and in-depth. And then they're like, oh no, it's tunnel talk. And I was like, oh no, it's gonna be, you're gonna be asking about nipples. But then you guys knocked it out of the park, and I was like, wow, this was actually like, in my opinion, probably, and I'm not just saying this to gas you up, like probably the best interview we've had on the network, and we've done quite a few, and we had quite a few others. Like, yeah, and that's such a crazy honor, because I think you guys are like the only people that have interviewed them like via audio medium in years and years, and they're still not doing them very often. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Right.
Yeah. And you guys got them to take off the vests for a period of time.
That is definitely going to go down as our number.
Oh, we lost you.
Oh no, is this my internet? Here, let me try.
We got you now.
Oh gosh.
But it sounds like you were saying it's going to be your like lasting contribution to the sport of professional wrestling.
You're frozen again, Leah, if you can hear us.
Jeremy, you got your work cut out.
It's all good. Oh.
Well, Leah has dropped off, so we will wait for her to come back. But did we have more questions for her? I think we were.
Yes, I was going to ask her favorite match.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened.
It's all good.
You're back. We are pros. We filled the air. The last question that we have, according to Jeremy, what is your favorite match thus far in your fandom?
Ooh, that is a good question. I should have prepped for that one. I think probably the Young Bucks Sting, because it was really so fun and so emotional, and I was really gripped the entire time. I think the all in at Wembley Best Friends match was also a huge one for me that I was like so like thrilled by. Yeah, I think those are my top two, maybe.
Nice.
It's probably because you liked that Ric Flair got kicked in the head.
Yeah, that was definitely a highlight.
All right, well, let's jump into Resurgence. So this was this past Friday, May 9th from the Toyota Arena in Ontario, California. We had an attendance of 2,027. And compared to last year was 3,024 in the same building. And that was the Jon Moxley Shota Umino main event with Eddie Kingston and Gabe Kidd in the semi-main event, the last man standing, where Eddie Kingston got hurt. So about 1,000 down from last year. So obviously not great to see, but I think the card wasn't as strong, I think, compared to last year.
Well, it's okay, Jeremy, because we didn't see it. So they kept those house lights down low. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, very intimate lighting.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Very intimate.
So we'll start off with the opener here. So we had two matches on the pre-show. First, we had the Strong Survivor match The Strong Survivor spot was vacant. Zane J giving that up so he can go to the Noge Dojo in Japan. So we were determining a new Strong Survivor here, and CJ Tino defeated Alan Breeze in 5 minutes and 25 seconds. Leah, we usually kick it to the guests first. I know these two guys are probably totally unfamiliar to you, so any thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, this one I really don't have much to say. I didn't know either of those men, and they didn't really impress me either way. It just seemed like a pretty, really unremarkable match. I don't know if that's crazy.
She hit him with the GSP. I was not impressed by that performance. Oh man. So this was a 2-star match if I've ever seen one. Just totally fundamentally adequate. Nothing was missed, nothing was wrong. 5 minutes in and out. The only thing I will say here, between Alan Breeze and CJ Tino, I'm not familiar with either of these guys either. They told us Alan Breeze was like the winner of the recent New Japan
Academy
Showcase Academy.
We don't
whatever
watch
the
that.
fuck it is. Like, he won some tournament, right? So you're like, oh, okay, he won a tournament. They're pushing this dude. And then CJ Tino beat him. First off, CJ Tino, I have no problem with him personally, but I don't like your name. Okay. Just think about it. WrestleMania, marquee, The Rock versus CJ Tino. That is not a name that you can put on a top marquee.
Reminds me of Tino Sabatelli.
Second thing. Yeah, Tino Sabatelli, which, we've seen that man a million times. But the other thing too, Alan Breeze, that's a great name. And he had a great look. If I was going to put one of these two guys over, it would have been Alan Breeze. But, this gimmick remains to be pay for play. We know what the gimmick is. These guys are paying dues at the academy. They're like,
allegedly.
Give us your allegedly give us your money so we can give you your quote unquote training. And yeah, we'll get you on a New Japan show. If the winner of this gimmick is giving up the gimmick to become a young lion in Japan, that tells you everything you need to know about what the gimmick is worth. They are lower than the lions in New Japan who can't win matches. So what is it really worth in the end? 5 minutes of not impressing Leah is what it's worth.
Yeah. So fun opener there. So CJ Tino is the new Strong Survivor. So I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him on these pre-shows going forward. Then following that, we had the return of B. Priestley, her 90 Days Up being released from WWE, formerly of the United Empire with Will Ospreay, and former Stardom Red Belt champion, former One Nation Radio wrestler, women's wrestler of the year. I think that was 2018, 2019.
Stardom wrestler, Stardom Joshi wrestler of the year.
Yes.
Which,
James Boyd loved that result.
I think it's coincidental that after 2018, they never had fans vote in their year-end awards ever again.
I liked her. I thought she was funny.
Yeah, I was glad to see B back, and I thought she looked really good.
Yeah. She cracked me up. I mean, especially at the very end when she was going up the ramp and she was really mugging at the crowd. I was like, that's cool. I thought she was great.
Yeah, it's great seeing her back. So she came out, cut a promo saying she's back, threw out an open challenge, and then Viva Van, who you see on these shows, has come out, and they had a fine little matchup here, 4 minutes, 27 seconds. B gets the quick win. So also with B being back on the scene now, it seems like she's going to be integrated into the Strong women's division, and we might be seeing her back in Stardom maybe at some point as well. But yeah, pretty cool seeing B back.
I love the idea that she claimed that she was debuting in one of the premier women's divisions in all of professional wrestling, which is great. Put over the gimmick, put over the division, but like New Japan doesn't have a fucking women's division.
What do you mean, Josh? We have 2 women's titles.
Yeah, we have 2 women's titles and no division. It's hilarious.
So, any other thoughts on this matchup before we move on?
No, I mean, it was short, so it was hard to kind of really gauge how much I liked her wrestling, but I just thought she was fun as, as a personality.
Yeah, and also we could see her back in 8.
They don't even have it.
Go ahead, Josh. I think it's just a slight delay on your end.
They don't even have it. Actually, the delay's on your end. Mine is up to speed. So, but what I was saying is that they don't even have it listed on the NJPW 1972 website at all. And because it's sub 5 minutes, you can't even rate it on Cage Match. So that tells you everything you need to know about that. But I'm glad to see her back. I think she's one of the girls that came out of WWE's system that was better off before she got there, and she'll be perfectly fine after. Now, I do have a question. And Leah, I know that she kind of predates your time watching AEW, but do you know why the AEW fans hate this woman and do not want her to show up in their company? Because I can't really understand it.
No, I didn't even know they hated her.
Yeah, for some reason, they don't want B back in AEW. She had a mini feud with Britt Baker, actually, I thought was pretty good back then. But for whatever reason, her, and it must be a white woman from Stardom thing, because they don't want Tekla there either. And she's coming in.
I want her because James Boyd told us that she's a friend of the Sapphics. And so I'm very excited about hearing that.
Yeah, she's awesome. I'm sure you guys will love her.
I just love when she said, "You are a fucking dentist."
Her best promo ever.
I think it's hilarious too that like Dave doesn't gas her up anymore because she's not dating one of his sources any longer, you know? Isn't that weird?
Surprise. So let's get to the opening of the main card. So we had Fred Rosser defeating Matt Vandergri in 13 minutes and 45 seconds. The whole background here, Fred Rosser, he is one of the lead trainers now at the NJPW Academy. Matt Vandergri, formerly one of the strong survivors coming out of the academy, and this was kind of the old school student versus teacher, disrespectful student trying to one-up his teacher here. So, Leah, what were your thoughts? I think it's probably the first time you've seen Fred Rosser and Matt Vandergri.
The worst part about going first is that when I have strong opinions, I'm not sure if they're going to be received well, but I hated this match. It was terrible. It was so slow and so boring. And there was like at least a 3-4 minute segment of, I wrote it down. I think it was Rosser, who was just sitting down on the ring, just getting kicked over and over for like a really long time. And I was like, okay, can we do something else now? No, we stayed on it. I hated it. I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah, this is a safety zone, Leah. You can say basically anything, especially since I'm here and no one's going to care. This was weird because in some ways, the things that are good about both of these guys, in my opinion, did kind of shine through, but the things that are bad about both these guys really, really shine through. And I do agree, Leah. I thought that this was really boring. And here's the thing about it. Matt Vandergri has been accused at times of being a knockoff Kenny Omega, knockoff AJ Styles, because he kind of borrows a lot from their style of wrestling. This screamed to me Fred Rosser telling him, "You're going to slow down tonight, kid," because this is the slowest he has ever wrestled. And then they had him doing strikes, and he's not good at striking. Those kicks you mentioned were terrible. His forearms were terrible. His chops were terrible. His punches were terrible. He's not good at striking, which leads me to beg, who's at fault for that? Oh, Fred Rosser, because he runs the fucking academy where he gets trained. So like a lot of this to me, this is the first time we've ever criticized Matt Vandergriff's wrestling. Usually what we're talking about is his lack of aura, his look, his gear. But now we're having to talk about his lack of like the little things and the strikes. Now, he did still try to break out some of the high flying. He did still try to break out some of the dynamic moves, but the timing and the pacing of the match was weird. And then like Fred, he was able to like, it was also a stark contrast because he's a lot smoother in the ring than Matt Vandergriff is, and that was clear. But he's Fred Rosser, and anybody that's seen him wrestle knows what I'm talking about. Like, this screamed like WWE style, slow down, kid. I'm going to teach you how to grab a hold and work. It didn't work for me. I don't think that technically it was like a bad match. It just was an uninspiring match. I'd go like 2.5 stars. It was fine for what it was. I do wonder why Fred Rosser had to beat Matt Vandergriff if he's like supposed to be on the come up, but whatever. Right. I don't know. Neither guy's coming to Japan anytime soon, so.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. Match was all right. It started off hot. You know, Matt did a dive from the beginning, and they were kind of brawling throughout the crowd. But then from there, they got back in the ring, and it definitely slowed back down. And yeah, Rosser kind of grinding out Vandergriff, and then eventually, you know, Vandergriff would fight back towards the end, did a 450 on Rosser, but he got the knees up. Rosser hit the lumbar check for a near fall, then got him in the cross face chicken wing and got the submission victory. I didn't think it was hilarious. It was like, this was awesome chant when they did a double down at one point in the match. I was like, oh my gosh, guys. Like,
do you know what that is? It's the
Pavlov's dog. It's like, you see the double down. You're like, oh, this is my time. It's my script the moment. I got to chant. This is awesome.
But where did that Pavlov's dog training come from? I could tell you where. That's a WWE-ism all day, every day. And, you know, I literally watched the WWE show this past weekend, and Cena and Randy Orton, which was a terrible match, but also fucking hilarious. And I loved it to my very core because it was so bad and overbooked. And they do a double down, and they're laid out in front of the Morgan and Morgan, which, like, I didn't even know Morgan and Morgan was like national. That shit started here in like Tampa and Orlando, and I'm like, Morgan and Morgan like is on WWE. That's for the people, but anyway, for the people. But yeah, they did a double down in a terrible match, and the crowd's like, this is awesome. We used to, me, Jeremy, Rich, the whole Social Suplex crew that's here in Florida, we would go to these NXT local Largo Loop shows, like in gymnasiums, like sub 100 people, and the crowd would try to do those chants. And the way you stop them in a small environment like that, intimate, just like this New Japan show, is you say the chant as sarcastically as you possibly can. So, like, as soon as they start saying "fight forever," you go "fight forever." Everyone shuts up.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, or we'll do the, you know, they'll be like, "This is awesome," but this is okay. It's all right.
Yeah, this is adequate.
Oh man. So yeah, Rosser gets a win. Not sure what the future of Matt Vandergriff is going to be, considering that, you know, he was the first strong survivor and the second strong survivor in Japan. He's not in Japan, so we'll see what's to come from him.
Maybe he should try to regain his crown. CJ Tino looks beatable.
Yeah, go back down to the pre-show. So
this should have been on the pre-show.
Honestly, it should have.
Yeah.
They should have given B and Viva Van more time and had them on the main event. Like, what are we talking about? That should have opened the show.
Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So following that, we had the NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team Title Match. New champions, United Empire's Templario and TJP defeat the world-class stricken crew of Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs.
So if you picture, I just watched the Rosser other guy batch and was so miserable, and I was like, this is terrible. What if I don't like this whole pay-per-view? They're gonna hate me. Then this match happens. I had the time of my life. This was my match of the night. This was everything to me. I loved this so much, and I fell in love with TJP. I've never seen that man before in my life. I loved everything about him from the moment that I saw his little video, and I was like, what is this Darby Allin try hard little like spooky video? I was like, I'm in love with this man. And then he came out and he was tiny, and I was like, this is my biological son. I'm obsessed with him. Loved the entire match. I loved the wrestling, was like wide-eyed glued to it.
Listen, TJP is like literally, and I mean this like wholeheartedly, is like I don't know if it's every week, but he is a confirmed listener of the show. He's probably going to hear what you just said.
TJP, I've never seen you before. I loved it. Loved it. Everything about it.
Oh, I'm dying. Oh my God. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I think, did we predict these titles to change or no?
No, because we were still kind of up in the air on what TJP's New Japan future was going to look like. Now he's more of a freelancer. He's not on a full-time contract. And plus there was the whole Twitter drama with him, his wife, and Jeff Cobb, who's now in WWE. And so people were kind of, does he have heat with the office? Is he still United Empire? Apparently all those guys hate him. What's going on? And so I think we were thinking that World Class were going to retain and we would never see TJP again. But lo and behold, we were wrong.
Yeah, he was even he was posting stuff on Twitter saying he was gonna at least one of these guys works for the United Empire and kind of unsettling shit like that. He also reached out to us to clarify that while he does love what's episode 1?
Phantom Menace.
He does love Phantom Menace. It's actually Attack of the Clones that's his favorite of the original trilogy. So just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs, the one concerning thing about this that I have is I think that they are a fantastic tag team and have been long overdue for an actual run in Japan, but with the fact that they don't have money to pay Naito, but they are giving some of that money away to the Good Brothers, makes me wonder, is this, where are we going with this? Are these guys staying at the same station and we're just expected to, this was just a title change to get the belt on TJP and Templario, kind of push those guys, but World Class Wrecking Crew are just kind of stay the same level and just continue to be a strong staple? Or is this the classic example of New Japan failing up? You lose a title that you don't need because you've moved beyond it and you're ready to graduate. Meaning, could we see these guys come November, December for World Tag League, which I think that's what most, New Japan fans are hoping for. But I'm not optimistic about that, even though it's long overdue and they're very, 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 very deserving of it. In the meantime, I'm glad to see that they belted up TJP and Templario. I don't know what that means for them because, again, TJP has no contract and Templario's, a CMLL guy. But, United Empire on the come up, strong titles, big win.
I did thought it was very funny that he was wearing all red, just not wearing the United Empire colors at all. He's kind of doing his own thing, and they still called him the captain on commentary.
And the gear was kind of hard, too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's probably his best gear in a while, actually.
It's the best gear he's worn in a while.
But yeah, I thought him and Templario gelled really well together as a team. Usually we're seeing TJP and Francisco Akira, and they're a great team. But yeah, him and Templario worked really well here together. A lot of great double team moves towards the end. You had Jarrell hitting the pop-up powerbomb on Templario. Royce hitting the DVD on Templario over Jarrell's knees. And then you had TJP and Jarrell trading roll-ups. And then Templario helped TJP kind of reverse momentum and get the surprise upset win over the World Class Wrecking Crew.
See, here, Leah, this is the concept. We say the funny shit, and then Jeremy's just going to tell us all the actual things that happened in the match.
That's we don't have a Jeremy on our show, which is why we're so stupid. Yeah, we need Jeremy to be like, and then this happened. Trish will call me a coward if I don't tell you this. Jarrell has such a nice butt. I really like every time I was like, he has a nice ass. So I would like all 4 of those men to come to Forbidden Door if possible.
Listen, I'm a completely heterosexual man, but I got to tell you, if I was liking one of them, it would be Royce Isaacs. And I base this on who would I want to look like. And he is, yes, that he has the 1980s action figure esque He-Man sort of thing. And that's what I that's what I want,
Yeah, no, poor Royce is probably my bottom of the 4.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Leah on this one. If I want to look at anybody, yeah, it's gonna be Nelson.
Yeah.
So a fun tag team match there. UE grabbed the
Here's another
titles.
interesting thing though. We had people in our Discord vehemently opposed to this show overall. And like, anyone who's listening that was in that Discord, I didn't really say shit, but like from here on out, you're pretty much going to hear a positive review. This was a good show. And like, this is where the business end of it like started to pick up. And I guess I'm not totally perplexed because I understand what this fan base wants. And a lot of it is not what this show was, but in a vacuum, good show.
Yeah. I had fun.
And before we move on, we did have a question from Barry Walsh. He says, with what went down with Cobb and TJP, now wearing a strong belt is the best way to win a belt in New Japan to not be signed to a contract with New Japan.
Sometimes, yeah. And sometimes the best way to get thrown into a group of Polynesian wrestlers who are all supposed to be, what are they supposed to be? They're Samoans, but they're not actually Samoans. Yeah. You leave New Japan and you get lumped in with, I mean, this is as bad as lumping every single brown Latino wrestler into the LWO, even if you're Filipino, which is what WWE has done up to this point. And now every Polynesian wrestler who has any sort of affiliation with like that like area of the world, including Guam, including New Zealand, we're just going to throw them in the fucking bloodline. Like that's what we do. You know, Triple H doesn't see color, but he seems to be able to identify which color these guys should all go to. But he doesn't see color, you know?
Yeah, it's funny. I said on the show for weeks that, Cobb's going to probably be in the bloodline. Everybody thought I was joking. I'm like, no, they're going to put this man in the bloodline.
I thought you were wrong, but you were right.
Oh, man. So
I guess he's getting that bag, so who knows?
Yeah, good for him. So following that, we had the return of the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, teaming up with the Young Bucks, the Bullet Club OGs, and they defeated the Bullet Club War Dogs of Clark Connors, Dave Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Goto.
Yeah. I think this was my least favorite Young Bucks match this year, but I mean, they've had such a strong year that's not really damning. But I mean, I have trouble with multi-mans anyways, because I just feel like sometimes they can seem disorganized. And this one, I really I didn't think it was as coherent as I think, some of them can be. It was also like tough for me, who's not that quick to really pay attention to these men that were all dressed the same in the same colors. Sort of like, couldn't one of you be wearing like a color that pops in any way? But I had fun.
That's called Vince McMahonism. He did not allow anybody to wear the same colors. That was like big no-no. So
yeah, and I mean, I don't necessarily think it needs to be a rule, but I think if you have an 8-person match, all 8 people can wear black, gray, and white.
Bullet Club tribute match.
That's why the NWO broke into black and white and red and black. Mm-hmm. So you could tell Lex Luger apart from
Macho Man.
Crush. Yeah. No, him and Macho Man were in the same group.
That's right. They're both Wolfpack. Yeah.
They're both Wolfpack.
But first, Macho was black and white first, and then he jumped.
No, he started red and black, and then he jumped to black and white.
No, Macho was black and white.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
I literally don't remember. You're probably right. But Stevie Ray was black and white always.
Yes, he was. He's BT,
and he was the secret leader of the black and white NWO when Hulk Hogan formed the new NWO.
Yeah. I'm not that huge of a fan of the Good Brothers, so I kept being like, okay, they need to go away. Get out of the show. I don't know. They're too big and they don't do anything with it, and so I get bored.
It's how you use it that matters. They weren't using it.
Exactly.
I've been told that before. Yeah, so I mean, To me, though, I will say this. I felt like this was the most motivated I've seen the Good Brothers work in, I don't know, years.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't anticipate them doing this again for a very, very long time. Like, they were like, we got to make a good impression. I've been listening to the marks online. They're not happy about this. We need to show them we're motivated. And then we can go back to doing what we normally do. So like they came in and they were like, I mean, you know, Carl Anderson was all cut up. He's jacked right now. He's got the fucking abs, and, you know, Big LG, he worked a little harder than he normally does. They didn't bump like they still didn't bump, but they're like, we're going to run a little bit. We're going to, you know, keep the work rate up a little bit. But I thought it was interesting that you've got the best hot tag in the world in Nick Jackson, but we're going to build to Luke Gallows getting the hot tag in this. And just because we're in California, we're going to decide to have the OGBC be the quasi baby faces in this situation, which, like, to me, I don't know. That doesn't work for me, brother. I don't know.
Yeah, it was definitely confusing. Like, as someone who is used to the Young Bucks being heel and actually the Good Brothers being heel, and like not really knowing the War Dogs, I really had a trouble where I was like, what's going on with the dynamics in this match? But
yeah, it was really weird because they're all heels, and then the War Dogs, I mean, are usually heels, but they've been more face leaning lately with their feud with the House of Torture. And Gabe Kidd's been getting over huge as a babyface in Japan. And it seemed like at the beginning of the match, the crowd was more kind of behind the War Dogs as the faces. And then Gabe Kidd like cut the promo in the mid-match and called the crowd nerds and did the whole Gabe Kidd stick that he does. And then the crowd turned on them. And then from there, they're behind the Bucks and the Good Brothers, which, I mean, they weren't really working babyface either. So, yeah, that whole thing was all kind of weird. And I agree with you, Leah. And like this,
and when you saw them,
go Josh.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Jeremy. I got a delay. You go ahead.
I was gonna say I agree with Leah in that
it's my fault. It's my fucking internet. I don't know what's going on.
I agree with Leah on this not being one of the Young Bucks' best matches this year. They've had so many great matches on Dynamite this year with the Sewer Gang and those multi-man matches with Speedball and Kevin Knight and that whole feud that's going down right now. This wasn't that level, but it was still fun. And the Young Bucks usually are the king of multi-man matches, but then they're looking along the Good Brothers. They don't have Ricochet or anybody better on their side here. But yeah, fun matchup. There was some brawl through the crowd, which in this arena might not have been the best thing since the lights were all down. You couldn't really see what was happening when they were brawling in the crowd. And then towards the end of the match, you had the Bucks hitting the EVP trigger on Goto, followed by the Meltzer driver, and then the Good Brothers hit the Magic Killer to get the win and pin Goto. So it was very obvious once Goto was announced as a part of this match that he was going to be the pin eater.
Yeah, as soon as you saw that Goto was the fourth man, you were like, oh, War Dogs are definitely losing here. At the same time, though, I thought the match itself, the work was really good. I agree with Leah. It was kind of all over the place. I mean, we've got an 8-man tag with very few tags that actually took place. It might as well just been a Texas Tornado match at certain points, which I guess is kind of par for the course for New Japan, but it was even more egregious than normal. But it was fun. Like, the action was there. It was just like you mentioned, Jeremy, not well lit, hard to kind of follow when they brawled through the crowd. My biggest issue with it was like the type of action that we were getting wasn't reflective of the build itself, because you would have thought that this type of work was indicative of some sort of deep personal feud that was going on. But like, this came out of nowhere. It's like, we're the old BC, you're the new BC, we got some friends, we're gonna fight. And it's like, that's not really like a good story that you can like sink your teeth into. Like, and then at the end they like try to throw up the too sweet and the other guys just rolled out, and I'm like, why did this happen? Like, are we going to remember this a year from now? Like, I probably won't. Like, why? What's going on? Like, and this didn't seem to help the new Bullet Club in any way, shape, or form. I don't know. It's just, I guess it's just Rocky getting his friends a payday. Like at the end of the day.
Yeah. It kind of seemed to me that it was really intended to be like, remember nostalgia. Remember the Good Brothers. We had some good times. Take them back, please. Won't you take them back? But it didn't really do much to get this match over.
Yeah, and that's probably my biggest complaint of the match is, the Warogs, they just won this big, the Warogs, this dog pound cage match at Dontaku, and, they're kind of riding this momentum, and they're supposed to be the new young guys that we're pushing, and now they come in and lose to the older guys, and it's like, all right, well, what does that say about them? Like, they can't beat the old, quote-unquote washed Bullet Club, like only, 2 of the 4 guys are on that team are only good.
You're wrong. You're wrong because they have an out. Goto was on their team. True. And we saw the damage that was done to Goto when he jumped off that cage. Okay. So he was in no shape or form to wrestle on this night after, what was it? Probably a 15 hour fucking flight to California. So it's very clear what was going to happen here. All right.
Yeah. Goto was the big glaring red flag there. But I gotta say, he's hilarious. He always finds a way to pop me in the match.
They should have had Goto wrestle Ishi and then put Drilla in this match. and then we'll see what's what,
Yeah, so I guess at some point they have to run back a rematch and either put Drilla in there, put Taiji Shimori, someone to even out the playing field.
Are we going to get Bullet Club versus Bullet Club in London when Forbidden Door takes place? Is that where we're going, or is this just going to be dropped?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Well, I'm the guy that always says I don't know, so I don't know.
I mean, I'm down for a Gabe Kid Kenny rematch at Forbidden Door. That's what I want.
But for them to have a rematch, Gabe has to win. Gabe's not beating Kenny in AEW. Like, come on. Unless they're signing Gabe away, which both of those are terrible results. So I don't really want that match to happen.
We did have some questions here on this match. Death Triangle 720 says, is it weird or concerning that for the U.S. shows, whenever the War Dogs come out, they don't really have the same fan support they do in Japan? Yeah, I mean, it's not great. And again, that kind of shows some of the disconnect between some of the Western fans and some of the programming. And plus, I don't really know how much of a New Japan crowd this was, considering, the Young Bucks and Mercedes were kind of the two big draws here. I feel like this could have been more of an AEW crowd, so I think it's kind of hit or miss on the crowds you bring into these New Japan US shows.
I think that these are WWE crowds, if I'm being completely honest, because it's like, I don't know. We went to that California show and that screamed to me like WWE/ROH 2017, 2018 circa crowd. And that's who they're appealing to here with this nostalgia. And it's very clear from the responses that these people love a certain version of the Bullet Club, but it's not like current day Bullet Club. It's like Bullet Club, almost a decade ago.
Yeah. Then Rambone says, were you surprised by the Good Brothers seeming like they actually tried a little in their match at Resurgence?
Leah?
Oh, well, I was like, I don't know if I can answer that because you
can answer anything on the show. You're part of the Strong Style.
You've seen plenty of the Good Brothers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like I haven't seen them in so long because I haven't seen them since I left AEW. I didn't follow them in WWE, obviously. I mean, I've I guess it's Carl Anderson keeps coming up on my TikTok For You page, and he's really pushing, trying to attract Young Bucks fans and get people's attention and bring up groundswell. So it's clear to me that he really wants a job. And so it's not surprising that they tried because it just seems so clear that they're I've got bills. Somebody has to pay me somewhere. I don't care where. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it makes sense that they definitely tried. It makes sense that the Bucks, you know, especially after I think the Bucks put up a post, I think it was on Instagram, where they were like really big upping the Good Brothers as people, that like they of course were going to try to highlight the Good Brothers like the best that they could do. So it kind of makes sense that they tried, but they're not really my cup of tea. So.
Well, like CM Punk, I believe in workers' rights, so I think that.
Oh man!
No, I'm not surprised. I don't have much more to say, but like it's their first night back in the company. They need to make a good impression. You know, they're working with Goto, the literal fucking booker of the company. Like they're gonna try.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny. We were talking about this when we were in Chicago. Like Carl Anderson just riding the momentum of that one great match he had with Okada. Two great matches he had with Okada and Tanahashi in 2012, and like that man has made a reputation, a career off of those matches. It hasn't done anything great since.
I finaled the G1. You know what that reminds me of? That's like when The Miz is like, I headlined WrestleMania. It's the same shit. And they both have like made a career out of it. So, you know, kudos to them.
Yeah. Also, it's funny. My wife hates the Good Brothers, and she cannot stand Doc Gallows. Like, that guy, like, he can barely walk, he can barely move. Like, what's he doing in there? Like, she's like, where's Ray Phoenix at?
He looks better now than he did when he was Festus.
That is true. But actually, I think he wrestled better when he was Festus.
My favorite version of Luke Gallows was when he was the fake Kane.
The May 19th. Hey, we're a few days away from that.
I don't remember the date. I just remember he was a good fucking fake Kane. You know what I'm saying? Two of my favorite feuds in wrestling: fake Undertaker, fake Kane. I like fake Diesel. I like fake guys. You know, it's good shit.
Yeah, AEW, they should have done some, fake Elite when they were suspended.
Yeah, why hasn't there been a fake CM Punk in AEW yet?
Who can be the fake CM Punk?
Oh, I don't know, Corey Graves.
Oh man. A question.
You have to be fake. You have to be a fake straight edge wrestler. Like CM Punk.
Yeah.
Nava in the Discord says, question I got, do you think the Good Brothers are showing up in Japan? If so, what is their cap?
I have no idea. I can't answer this one.
Yeah, they're not signed to not show up in Japan. You think that they're not going to bring in Doc Gallows and Luke, Luke Gallows and fucking Carl Anderson to Japan? Of course they are. They worked for WWE. All right, they're getting paid.
Yeah, they're not going to make much money just doing New Japan America shows.
Naito ran so Luke Gallows could fly.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what kind of reaction they get. Some of the comments from Japanese fans on Twitter, when you translate them, they weren't very happy to see the Good Brothers back.
You don't have to like it, but you got to learn to live with it. Okay, because diamonds are forever, and so are the Good Brothers.
Then the last question here, Barry Walsh says, with the Good Brothers back again, do you think we are destined for yet more Bullet Club inner turmoil storylines?
I cannot believe we have this many questions about the fucking Good Brothers.
Hey,
this is crazy.
Big draw. Big LG. Machine Gunka. Yeah.
I envy Leah because she doesn't have to watch these guys. Like, it's totally.
Hey, they were with the Young Bucks. Don't be surprised. Yeah. They might slide in on Dynamite.
Yeah, and they're almost certainly coming for Forbidden Door. I would guess.
Yeah, but they're gonna have like one of those deals with like Eric Redbeard, where like they show up, but it's not gonna be a full-time gig. You know, but they're signed here. They're probably going to win the IWGP tag team titles again.
I can only hope that you're correct.
I don't know. All in Texas, Young Bucks need a big match.
Oh my God. If I go to Texas and then I have to watch the Young Bucks fight with God, it'll probably be the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers versus FTR and somebody. And then I'll just have to go die.
We're all going to Texas?
Yes, we are. Yes.
All of Tunnel Talk's going and Sarah's going. Trish isn't going.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, yeah, she's from the UK. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be rolling deep. Floyd and Austin will be there as well. Yeah, me, Josh, Rich, James. Majority of the network's going to be there.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll just throw this out there because it's kind of fucking funny. But the reason we're going is because Floyd was gracious enough to gift us our seats to the show. And he was like, hey, I bought this packet, blah, 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 and you guys are all going to get to go. And this is my gift to you. And every couple of years he does something like that because he's gracious like that. So it's oh, that's really cool. Then I went and I looked at the ROH show and I noticed that I was oh, you can't buy tickets to the ROH show. You can only get it if you have a VIP. And I'm wait a second. He bought our tickets. There was 4 of them. That's VIP. But he didn't tell us about the ROH tickets. So then I messaged him and I was like, hey, I saw this thing where ROH, you can only get it if, and he was like, yeah, I've got 4 tickets.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh, Floyd is taking 4 other people to the ROH.
Good for
Floyd. And here's the funny thing is I don't even follow ROH. I didn't want to go, but now that I know that he has them and we don't get to go, I'm fucking jealous. Oh man, but yeah, we got a barbecue pit and a fire pit. We need to do something at our
Airbnb gimmick.
Yeah, our Airbnb gimmick. Although we can't tell them that that's what we're doing, but we need to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a get together there. We'll meet up. We'll do a fan meetup somewhere, probably Friday night.
The Airbnb. Doesn't matter our address.
Just invite these people into your home.
Drop it on the Discord.
we don't know you guys, but just come through. Sleeps 8, so. Oh, you know what we should do? We should tell them that if they want to pay to attend, then they can just cover the cost of the Airbnb. We'll recoup the losses.
Always hustling.
Oh man. So let's move on to the next match. We had the NJPW Strong Openweight title. We had the Stone Pitbull Tomohiro Ishii defeating Drilla Maloney in 13 minutes and 39 seconds.
I had fun with this. I really like Ishi. I like every time I watch him wrestle. I like his style, and I think his entire shape of his body is so crazy that I love to watch it because he's both little and a tank at the same time. It's really compelling to me. And I'd never seen Drilla. I was not familiar with him whatsoever. And I think that he should join the Don Callis family immediately. He looks exactly like he belongs to the Don Callis family.
Unfortunately, I agree with you, which means we're going to lose more talent to AEW. I remember, speaking of Ishii's body, I remember the first time I ever went to a WrestleMania weekend. I was with James Boyd and Rich Latta, and we were at WrestleCon, not actual WrestleCon. We were at the Super Show, which a bunch of the wrestlers had their tables set out or whatever. And we're in the parking lot, and Ishii was there and Michael Elgin were there. And we walked past them. And to me, prior to meeting them, prior to seeing them, I was like, those are the biggest motherfuckers that have ever wrestled in the history of business. And we walked past them, and I'll never forget, Rich looking over at me. He's like, man, I'll fuck both of them. He's like, dude, those guys are little. We would fuck them up.
It's true. Ishii is very little, but I also sort of feel like anytime anybody gives him a strike, I feel like there should be a huge clanging hollow noise, someone hitting an empty keg, that's what I feel like you should be able to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a match several years ago where prior to his fame, Keith Lee wrestled this is kind of the match that like made Keith Lee put him on the map. He wrestled Tomohiro Ishii in Rev Pro, and it was like a really famous match. I think Dave gave it like 5 or close to 5 stars or whatever. And it should be like a David and Goliath match. The problem is that Keith Lee was not the David. Ishii was the David. No. I've got that backwards. Ishii was the Goliath.
That's
Keith
funny.
Lee was the David. Yeah.
That's very funny.
But anyways, this match was really good. It was not quite as good as the match that they had during the New Japan Cup. I almost sort of expected Ishii to drop the title to Drilla here just because they've been pushing him. But, they went a little chalk here. They're going to keep the title on Ishii for the time being in the States, which is fine. And, he picked up the win. I thought the match was good. I thought it was a tad bit slower than what we had experienced in the New Japan Cup. But all in all, it was solid. I don't know. I'd go like 3.5. I sort of expected a little bit better here. But it felt like they just sort of worked like the Ishii house show special, basically.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a watered down version compared to the New Japan Cup matchup. But yeah, still very hard hitting. And, Ishii's body, we call Ishii one of the best bad body wrestlers out there. But yeah, they had a, hard hitting Ishii style matchup towards the end here. Drilla was hitting all the big moves. Hit the spine buster, hit the gore, which he's trained by Rhino, who was on Dynamite this past week. And then they're trading lariats. Drilla hits the brain buster. Ishii hits the Insecurity, a big lariat, and then Maloney's trying to hit the Drilla killer. Ishii escapes, hit a standing powerbomb, followed by a clothesline in the brain buster to get the win. So Ishii successful on his first defense of a strong title, and yeah, it makes a ton of sense to keep it on him for right now. Very popular guy in the U.S., and that's supposed to be, the belt of this U.S. brand, so all good with it.
Champion of the Americans.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We love to have him.
I took my dad out for sushi a couple months ago for his birthday, and I was telling him that I was going to Chicago to see Tanahashi's final match. He's like, oh, yeah, I know Tanahashi. He's the guy that wrestled in AEW. He wrestled Chris Jericho, and they just chopped each other until they bled. And I was like, no, that's Ishii. And he was like, so yeah. Also, we met Ishii in Dallas when we were invited to cover the G1. And when we interviewed him, or maybe it wasn't us, I don't remember who asked him the question, but someone said something to the effect of like, hey, you had like one of the best G1s last year. He's like, I didn't have a good G1. And he's like, I lost most of my matches. That's not a good G1. And they're like, well, what are your goals this year? And he's like, I just want to smash. Trying to smash everybody.
We also had a run with him at New Orleans in 2018 WrestleCon.
That wasn't me. That was you.
Me and Rich. And Rich was communicating with him through the Notes app, like, translator.
I used the translation app to like thank him.
Yeah. Ahead of Shibata,
Yeah, the Shibata gimmick, but he was first. That's very funny.
I think the one that you had at that WrestleMania weekend, the one that like went viral was your interaction with Suzuki.
No, that was, you're talking about
the next year.
The next year was like the Karrion Kross thing.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about the time that you like held his white belt.
Yeah. That was the same. Yeah, that was 2018. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of New Japan guys over there that year. So moving on to the next match, we had the never open weight title, Konosuke Takeshita, with our good friend Rocky Romero defeating El Phantasmo in 17 minutes and 48 seconds.
I like this. I thought it was a very fun match. I haven't seen ELP since he was last on AEW, so I didn't know he had cut his hair. I think that it looks really good. I like it. I had known that he had been back from cancer, but like he looked really, really good. So, I mean, you'd never know that he, anything had happened. So he looked great. I had a really good time. I think I'm in a minority opinion with most of the internet in that Takeshita doesn't always do it for me, but I thought this was fun, and I love Rocky's new heel look. I thought that like his little mustache is so funny, and so when he got his ass kicked, I enjoyed that very much.
What about Takeshita doesn't always do it for you?
I mean, in AEW, because all of the heat is on Don Callis, you end up spending a lot of the time in the match, like listening to what Don Callis is doing on commentary or watching how Don Callis is going to cheat. I get distracted very easy. And I mean, I understand that a lot of people talk about like what a good wrestler he is. And and there's been times that I'm like, that was a really great move. I love that. But there's a lot of times that I can find myself kind of zoning out during his matches. So I understand I'm in a very small minority on that. And Rich Latta would kick my ass for saying it.
Well, I've said the same thing to Rich myself, and I've never gotten my ass kicked by him, but
not yet.
Not yet. He is a green belt, is my understanding, and that's a very high belt. So I don't know.
Man's gonna bust out the taekwondo.
Is he doing taekwondo? I thought he was doing something else.
Some kind of martial arts. He's gonna unleash it. You'll see in Texas.
Unleash the dragon. Yeah. These two guys. ELP and Takeshita, they have a lot of chemistry. And again, I felt like it's so hard for me because they had such a high-end match during the G1 last year. Literally a match of the year contender, one of the and this was hilarious. And it's weird because it's like we're in the Discords, we're interacting with people that like listen to the show, but also we interact with them online and they like disagree with us, but they also listen to the show, and it's like I'm gonna offend them, but they're my friends. It's weird, but it's like they didn't like that, or I don't know. I don't want to misquote them, but like they didn't think that match was like that good or the best match of the tournament. It's like everybody thinks that that's the best match of the fucking tournament. You guys are just like in a weird bubble. Like it's just you guys that don't think it's the best. That was the best match of the fucking tournament. But I think at the time, ELP was kind of trying out for probably a job with AEW. Obviously, he's not working there right now, so it is what it is. But we've seen two matches of these guys subsequent, week to week, and they've both been very good, but nowhere near the levels of match that they had in the G1 last year. And I don't know if that was like I think it's a convergence of two things. Like Takeshita wanted to be in New Japan, and he is. ELP probably wanted to be in AEW, and he's not. And there was a different level of motivation last summer versus these matches. But at the same time, the chemistry is undeniable. These are like guys that are made for one another. They get each other. And it's not just the singles matches. We saw it like at last year's Forbidden Door with the table spot with Takeshita and ELP. Like they get it, and they know how to work really, really, really well with one another. I think in the right environment, on the right stage, could they go out there and bust another like 5-star match if they really, really, really wanted to? Yes. Did we get that? No. Was this a very, very good match? Yeah. And I think I've seen a lot of people say for their tastes, this was match of the night. I don't know that it was for me, but I did think it was an improvement over the 15-minute time limit draw that we saw just a couple weeks ago. At the same time, as much as I like ELP these days, I kind of think Takeshita should just beat him just because he's fucking Takeshita, and I kind of like don't buy him losing to ELP for any reason whatsoever. And I think he should have all the belts and, be draped up like he's fucking Ultimo Dragon in the 90s.
Yeah, I thought the match was better than the TV title match at Down Tokyo a couple weeks ago. They have a really great chemistry. And the funny thing was, we were a little bit critical on the TV title match of the pacing. And I felt like the start of this match had the pacing of what I feel the TV title matches should have, the pacing. And so... yeah, very hot start. A lot of great back and forth towards the end. ELP got the visual pinfall on Takeshita. He hit the Thunder Kiss 86, and then our good friend Rocky pulling Phantasmo out, but Phantasmo got some revenge, powerbombed him through the table, and that left him open to eat the raging fire from Takeshita. So Takeshita retains with a little bit of help from Rocky. And then it was weird post-match, like, Takeshita offers his hand, ELP shakes it. Like, why are you shaking this man's hand? Like, he's a heel and just screwed you out of being a double champion.
Yeah, I did not understand that at all. Because is El Phantasmo a face right now in New Japan? Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, he looked dumb. It's like, he just cheated. Why are you shaking his hand?
Well, the funny thing is, like, Leah mentioned him cutting his hair, and like, I don't remember what he looked like with long hair. It's been so long since he's been in AEW where I'm like, I don't remember what that even fucking was.
He had a weird mullet.
Oh, he had the mullet.
That was super long hair. Yeah.
So are we talking about like when he worked with the Bucks or past that?
That's the last time I saw him. Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
I know.
You know, the funny thing is, like, this whole time since he's come back from his illness and he's debuted the new look, I thought he was doing like a Hulk Hogan look, but I realized he's doing Ken from Barbie.
Oh my God, I love that. That's cool.
But I think that Ryan Gosling from Barbie was doing a Hulk Hogan tribute. So it's like, I think he's doing Ken, who was doing Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and everything is full circle. So yeah.
So following that, we had double main event number 1 with the IWGP World Heavyweight title match. Hirooki, Goto, and Zack Sabre Jr. wrestle to a double pinfall draw.
Sorry.
No, I just want to say one thing. I'm going to kick it over to you, Leah, but I am vehemently opposed to 2 U.S. pay-per-views in a row where the IWGP title does not headline. And it's not just that it doesn't headline, because it's okay if it doesn't headline, but they advertised it both times as headlining and then switched it at the last minute.
Yeah. I had a friend who was in the crowd, and she said that they ran down the card at the beginning that this was last. So it must have been a very late switch.
I have my feelings about what might have happened there.
I don't really like technical wrestling, so Zack Sabre Jr. is always kind of tough for me. But I really liked Goto. He was so cute, and I liked I liked the way he sold. So it kept my interest just because I liked like the way he wrestled. So it kind of overcame the ZSJ of it all. But I did not understand the finish. I was watching with Trish and Tim Hunter, and I was like, wait a minute, what happened? What? And I was like, can you explain that to me? Like, why did that? Because I mean, I don't like, there's like a lot of fuck finishes that happen that like people are like, they do this all the time in WWE. And I'm like, well, I've never seen it before, so it's fine. But this one, I was like, have we ever seen this before? And Trish says, I've never seen it before, but like, I really didn't understand it. Why does it count? Like, why did the ref not treat it like pulling out of a pin? Like, I don't understand why the match had to end. I don't know. I just thought that the finish was really confusing.
I can speak to this.
Please do.
All right. So it is, I don't know if it's that uncommon of a finish these days, but the reaction to it leads me to believe that it is. But growing up, I've seen this finish a million times. I don't know, Jeremy, can you speak to that? Have you seen this a lot of times too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty simple. It's basically they're both in a pinning predicament and neither guy got their shoulder up. So because both of their shoulders were down, it's vis-a-vis a draw. But the reaction is not uncommon for what you're feeling, Leah, because I've seen it all over the internet. Like, people are fucking freaking out about this finish. And like, I've seen this finish in New Japan. I can't cite specific instances, and maybe it's been a long time, because once I start thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, maybe this is like a Baba Inoki trope, and it just feels like I've seen it a lot because I watched a lot of wrestling. But I don't know. I didn't personally have a problem with it. I thought it was intriguing. Why did they need to protect Zack? What's the reason we needed to protect Zack? Like, that's my real question. But once I saw that they were switching the order of the match card, I was like, oh, like something is fishy here with the finish between Goto and Zack, because if it was something that was going to leave fans satisfied or happy, that would have just gone on last, and it didn't go on last. So, you know, here we get this. They did some sort of protection for Zack. I don't know why. Like, I don't know if this is leading to a rematch, or I don't know. Do you think that maybe the Dominion card could get switched to a triple threat or something like that, possibly off of this?
I don't know. They officially announced that it's going to be Goto defending against Shingo. So I feel like they would have already, if they were going to do the three-way, they would have announced the three-way. But so far, they just announced Goto versus defending against Shingo. So yeah, so I don't know. Maybe they just didn't want to beat Zack again with Goto. And, Zack hasn't really been doing a whole ton this year, and so maybe they were just trying to protect him in that way. But yeah, with this finish, I haven't seen this finish. I think it's been like a while since I've seen this finish, especially since watching AEW, because they really don't do finishes like this. So yeah, I wasn't.
Has AEW never done a double pin?
I have never seen it. The closest that they came to it was that one where Ricochet was pinning. Oh my God, it was so much. It was recently, like... Oh,
in the three-way?
Yeah, where Ricochet pinned... Was it Kevin Knight who pinned somebody else? And they called that a draw. But, like, that was more visually... Like, I understood why they called that a draw. Because it was clear. It was like, I don't know who you call that. Who won.
Oh,
but
it was the... wasn't it the Ricochet, like, speedball, the winner to face going into the Kenny match?
Yes. I can't think of who was at the bottom of the pile, though.
Here's one thing they used to do in the 80s that was really frustrating. They would do a finish where a guy would get... The good guy would German suplex a bad guy. Or actually, German suplexes were so rare in North America before Chris Benoit. It would be a backdrop. He would backdrop the bad guy. And they would both, and you would think that he was pinning the bad guy, and the bad guy would put his fucking shoulder up at the last second. And the good guy, let's say it's like, I don't know, Jim Brunzell, his fucking shoulders would both be down, and the referee would count that, and you'd be like, wait a second, he lost? And then you would just like, he's a dummy. Like, that's the fucking dumbest thing I've ever seen. Sometimes shit like that would happen. But yeah. Did you ever see Jeremy? I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember when Triple H and HBK wrestled? At the end of the year in 2003.
Yeah, the super kick into the pin.
Yeah. So yeah. Shawn Michaels super kicks Triple H. The guy that runs NXT super kicked the guy that runs WWE nowadays, and Triple H falls on the ground, and Shawn Michaels falls back to pin him. And his shoulders are on the mat, and you think he's winning, and they count the 1, 2, 3, and then they award the title to Triple H, and you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened?
I was so pissed because I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan. Thought he was winning the belt back. I was like, he got him.
I thought he was winning the belt back too.
And they're like, and winner, and still. I was like, what?
Bro, that match is incredible, by the way. But yeah, I thought this match was really, really good. I didn't think it was anywhere near as good as the match that they had earlier this year, which I think was a literal New Japan like match of the year contender. I don't think anything that we've seen this year approaches like, say, Kenny and
Gabe.
But you know, it's going to get nominated. It's worth the consideration. This wasn't near that. The crowd was like really into both guys, but they were so unsatisfied with this finish that it really brought things down. And then the like reaction online was like pretty visceral. I don't know. I don't personally have an issue with this finish because it's something that's been done in wrestling forever, but at the same time, this audience they're not fucking happy with it. In the arena, online, like, so, I'm on an island unto myself. I don't know how you feel about it, Jeremy.
Yeah, I wasn't really happy with it. I thought the match was good. Like you said, it wasn't as good as the match where Goto won the title. And I did feel like the crowd, also the crowd in Japan they were so behind Goto and wanting to see him win. And his kids were in the front row. You had the whole atmosphere and the aura for that matchup. And this match is that the atmosphere wasn't quite there. And I felt the crowd wasn't as into these guys as maybe the Japanese crowd would be. It kind of felt almost like a house show version of their match that they had previously. But again, still very good stuff. And then, yeah, when they get down towards the end, they're exchanging the pinfalls and they do the double pin. I was just kind of like, why? I don't know. It left a bad taste in my mouth. It just felt like a very sports entertainment style finish. And this is supposed to be, the king of sports. You'd think the referee would be like, no, they're both pinned. Like, get up and keep going.
I disagree with that. I think if both of them, their shoulders are down, like that is sports centric, they need to lose. The problem is maybe don't book that. Maybe you don't do that if that's what, the vibe of the promotion is. I felt like they kind of passed the peak a little bit once they started going into the trading of the pinfalls, because it had gotten really hot prior to that. And then the reactions to the near falls were nowhere near where they'd been prior.
Yeah. So yeah, I felt like there could have been a better finish. And again, back to the whole, why are we protecting Zack? Like, why couldn't Goto just beat him again if Zack's not going to be in the title picture anytime soon? So I don't know what the future plans are for Zack, but it just kind of seemed like, I don't know, it was just kind of a wet fart moment. It's like you wanted something better, and that's what you got.
It makes you think that Zack and Goto are probably going to end up in the same G1 block, and Zack's probably going to beat him clean.
That's a possibility, yeah. We have some few questions here on this match. Def Triangle 720 says, do you think the result of ZSJ versus Goto, they will either do a rematch after Dominion or go a different route and turn the world title match into a three-way?
I think it's possible. I know that they announced the world title match, but I don't think it's totally out of the question that they throw in Zack into the title match. But they probably won't. But we've seen King of Pro Wrestling have triple threat matches in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if we wind up with some sort of triple threat at King of Pro Wrestling involving Zack and Goto.
Yeah, that could be possible. Zack did kind of throw a fit after the match. He was pushing the referee, so maybe this is TMDK starting to turn heel a little bit, and maybe Zack kind of forces his way into the title match, or it could be like you mentioned, Josh, that they're setting up Zack to get a win in G1, and if Goto's still champion, maybe they're doing another Zack Goto title match in the fall.
Hey, how about Shane Hayes is back?
Yeah. He was chilling out there. Next question from Let Little 727. Is the world title being defended too many times per year? 13 times in 2024 and already up to 9 times in 2025.
I had never thought of that. And I started doing a little bit of research. I didn't have time to dedicate like a whole entire case study to it, but I was like, let's look back at like Inoki's reign with the NWF title. I'm sure that back then he was defending it more. Nope. Like he never defended it 13 times in a year. It seems like I know in other companies it might be defended as frequently, whatever version of the world title we have in New Japan. There's been like 5 or 6 at this point, but that seems like a lot for this company.
Yeah. Leah, do you have any thoughts on how often a title should be defended?
Could you handle 13 Moxley title defenses in a year?
Not this Mox. I'd say. No, I mean, I can see a world in which, the contenders get devalued a little if they're coming to rapid fire. But I think it's fun to get to go to a show and see the title get defended. So, I think, a good reign, you get to see a lot of defenses. So that's good. That's fine with me.
I just need to throw this out there because Rich Latta has demanded that you and I, Jeremy, immediately comment on this picture of Ahmed Johnson sitting next to Ron Simmons. I don't know if you can see this photo.
Yeah. The beef has been squashed.
Any thoughts in 2025? Now, here's the thing. Rich might have forgot, but I didn't forget. I remember being a child in 1997, 1996, watching Superstars. This man, Ahmed Johnson, joined the nation. He turned his back on his entire race.
He's a gang member, baby. Remember that?
Yeah. He turned his back on the gang and he joined the Nation of Domination, which actually, looking back, I don't know. The Nation of Domination had some pretty good points about, inequality and about police violence. At the time, I hated them, but looking back, I don't know. I'm not sure that Ron Simmons shouldn't have beaten Undertaker for the world title. I think that might have been the better way to go, with the race relations that they're pushing in 1997 in WWF. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of times where black people should have won in WWE and they did not. So add that to the case file.
How about earlier today, I was Googling worst things that WWF did and I found a list and it was covered up the murder of Owen Hart and then the next one was ended the streak.
Got to mix in the kayfabe with a real life death.
It was they were mixing in the terrible atrocities that the company's actually covered and then been over push John Cena,
beat Bryan Danielson.
But yeah, I'm glad that we live in a day and age where Ahmed Johnson and Ron Simmons can coexist peacefully.
Yeah, and back to title defense question. I'm okay with the frequency of defenses if you have a lot of challengers. I think I'm fine with it. I think it all depends on the size of the roster, size of the challengers, and kind of what the quality of title matches have been. And I mean, Goto's been killing it this year. All his title defenses have been great. So as long as they keep giving him great opponents, I'm fine with it.
I mean, Goto's got to beat everybody, so
he's getting all them wins back. That's why Naito ran. Naito's I gotta lose to him? Nah, I'm good.
Everyone thinks that the sticking point was about time off
and
getting
money,
surgery, money. No, it was about they're well, you're gonna lose to Goto, and he's fuck that.
Question from Tim Hunter. He says, why do you think they felt the need to protect ZSJ at Resurgence? Why couldn't Goto just beat him again? I think we're all asking that.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's got to be something in the works for why they had to protect ZSJ here.
I don't know why Zack couldn't have just won the title.
Could have. I think Japanese fans would have been really mad, though, if they had not seen Goto losing it live. But that takes us now to the main event, NJPW Strong Women's Title 3-way match. We have a new champion. Azumi defeats Mercedes Moné and Mina Shirakawa in 17 minutes and 53 seconds.
I love this match. I had so much fun. Obviously I know Mina and love Mina, but I don't think I've seen Azumi. Maybe I have, but I really, really enjoyed her. I do have one weird question for you guys. So at the very beginning of the match, I think before the bell had even rang, the ref went over to Mina and asked her to lift up her shoes and examined the soles of her feet and then walked away. Why did that happen?
So that's an old wrestling trope where the referee was supposed to check, the wrists, the elbow pads, knee pads, and the boots to make sure there's no hidden weapons in their gear.
No foreign objects.
Yeah, foreign objects. And so
also, isn't foreign objects very like racially pejorative sounding? You know what I mean? Like it sounds super fucked up.
But yeah, that's the whole thing. It's supposed to be checking to make sure there's no illegal objects, weapons hiding in there, no powder or anything. And
they might have some flash paper that you can light on fire and throw in their face.
Some brass knuckles.
So funny. I had never seen that. I loved it.
They can have a roll of quarters, a fork. They could have loaded elbow pads with a metal plate inside of it. You got to make sure it's all up to NWA standard and code.
Yeah, it was done. It's definitely a more old school thing. Referees really don't do it that much anymore.
No, I had never seen it before. And I thought that it was something specific to Mina. I was like, is she often is she hiding stuff so much that the refs are like, enough of her?
My favorite thing is like when the bad guy wrestlers are always concealing stuff. They put their arms up in the air and just like they'd be like, check me out. I don't care. Like, but lo and behold, they've done such a good enough job, like hiding it into the nether regions that they're always able to still pull it out regardless. It doesn't matter.
And the match, some guys, he's pulling like a ring out or a brass knuckle out of his trunks. It's like, I thought the ref checked him.
Now with this knowledge, Leah, don't you wish that Bryce Remsburg was checking MJF all those times to check
for the ring? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually what I now really desperately want in AEW is one of those like sitcom moments where like Bryce goes to shake down a wrestler and pulls out like 15 different like weapons out of various areas. And it's just like a pile emerges. And it's like, where did you even hide all that?
Oh my God. I just realized you guys have never seen a Toru Yano match.
Nope.
Oh man.
Oh, you guys would fucking love Toru Yano. You guys got to see. Oh my God. All right. So Tunnel Talk, do you guys still do the review matches thing? Yeah,
but you already did yours. You did Magnum PI.
Yeah, it was,
which we loved, by the way.
It was Magnum yeah, but you guys scandalized it. You guys turned Magnum TA versus Tully Blanchard into a very sexual experience.
Dude, that was an XXX rated match.
I don't see how. They were just trying to beat each other for their masculinity. There was nothing sexual about it.
I know. I listened to that review and I don't know, Tunnel Talk, they got me convinced. There was some sexual tension there that it was built up.
Oh man. But you guys got to see Kenny Omega versus Toru Yano in the G1. All right, so the reason that you've reminded me of him, this is a guy who has been shaken down and they're pulling out all the foreign objects, but he's able to like still finagle
that's cool,
tapes into other places and like to the ref where he already checked and he's able to like quickly stuff it in and like it doesn't matter how much they find, he's able to like he still has more.
That's what I want to see. That's funny. That's exactly what I want to see. All right, well listeners, if you are a Tunnel Talk listener, we do a gimmick where if you leave us a 5-star review, you can tell us a match to watch. So somebody out there who wants to listen to us or watch that match, give us a review and request it.
Yeah. Kenny versus Toru Yano is maybe the greatest comedy match that has ever occurred. Just imagine two men wrestling with their arms and feet completely taped up.
Don't give too much away. They gotta get into it.
I guess we should review this triple threat.
Yeah. Well, speaking of comedy, I'll also say Mercedes did an amazing job when she lost, because she was just screaming and I was laughing so hard because she sounded like a wounded bear, and she just kept like looking at Azumi and looking at Mina and being like, is this real life? And I loved it. I thought it was like one of like the best like heel reactions to losing the belt I've ever seen. But the match itself I thought was really great. I thought that all three of them worked really well together and it was so fun. And I thought it was, now knowing how both matches ended, I think this was the right one to main.
Yeah, definitely the right call. Sending the crowd home happy with a new champion title win. And yeah, very surprised that Mercedes, even though she wasn't pinned, losing her first belt on a non-AW show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wonder if that means that she's going to start, like she'll lose the Rev Pro one soon so that she can start prepping to like maybe lose the TNT and move into the TBS and move into the title picture. I don't know.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's maybe opening the door for, helping Jamie Hayter win. If Mercedes kind of has a chink in the armor with this match, could this be the opening for Jamie to win at Double or Nothing? And maybe Mercedes is going a whole different route and not going to Tony Storm?
Yeah, I mean, I've never thought about that. I guess they could. I wonder if it would be, if the crowd would flip out though, because I think people are really excited about a Tony Mercedes showdown, but it might be kind of fun to do it that way and keep saving it, because it really is, the two titans of the promotion.
Yeah, if they did that, they would send a really good match for Mercedes. I don't know who they would. I guess you could run back maybe Willow. People really want to see Willow beat Mercedes. Yeah. So if you're kind of doing the downfall of Mercedes, like maybe Jamie's like the first blow, and then you can set up like Willow or Stat or somebody like that who's lost Mercedes in the past, and they come back and beat Mercedes in Texas.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
But yeah, I thought the match was really good. Three super talented women, and Azumi is awesome. One of the standout stars in Stardom. Super high speed wrestler. Got to see her live in New York in 2019. Super impressive. And so, yeah, really great three-way actions. I loved at the beginning, Mina like sliding into the dance with both of them. So, yeah, a lot of great moments throughout the match. And towards the end, Mina hit DT on Azumi for a near fall. And Azumi got a roll-up on Moné for a near fall. And then Azumi hit a Canadian Destroyer on Moné. Mina rolled up Azumi. Moné made a save, and then Azumi rolled up Mina once again, and Mercedes wasn't able to make the save, and we get our new champion. Josh, what were your thoughts on the match?
So I thought this match was easily, from a work perspective, the best match of the night. And ideally you want the best work to finish the show out. And I know I'm going to sound anti-woman here, and that's not what this is.
Joshua Smith is not a misogynist.
I understand that there have been many times in recent past in both AEW and WWE where the women probably should have headlined the big show. And I would have had no problem with them headlining this show with this particular match had it been advertised as such. Yeah. The problem is that once, even though the ticket sales weren't quite what they wanted it to be, they sold the majority of the late rush of tickets off the back of Goto and Zack Sabre Jr. when that was the announced match. And I sort of understood why in Chicago they called the audible and decided to have the last match be Tanahashi's quote unquote retirement in Japan. I also kind of won't be surprised if hypothetically Tanahashi maybe closes out the show in the Tokyo Dome when it's his retirement show as opposed to the IWGP title, kind of the same thing. But I didn't think that this match was meriting. I mean, bro, at one point this was like the number 4 listed match of the show, which was a little surprising, but I think that there might have potentially one of two things happened here. Either an audible was called about the booking of the IWGP title, and they were like, this is, we're going to do this double pin finish to appease everybody. That's not going to send the crowd home happy. We need to put the women's match on last. Or Tony Khan called in and was like, you're not fucking putting Mercedes Moné on before the men. Like she's the biggest star. She's going on last, which like, I kind of think that might have happened here. I don't know for sure. This is not me like saying something I know for sure happened, but it kind of smells of someone pulled the audible and we're like, the big stars on the show here. She's the biggest, when you look at the poster, she's the big, the biggest figure on the poster. They should have just advertised it. At the same time, I kind of think it's bullshit for two reasons. Number one, I don't think that she should have lost the title here. If you haven't had her technically lose a match in AEW or Ring of Honor up to this point or on the Indies, she shouldn't be taking a loss in a triple threat in New Japan. I know that it's a quote unquote protected finish because she didn't actually get pinned and it was, Azumi pinning Mina, but it still kind of taints whatever they've got planned in AEW. I don't think that was a smart decision in my book. I feel like whoever beats her for this title should really be beating her for the title when the time comes, which means she should lose in AEW first on a big show. And then if you want to have Azumi or whoever the fuck beat her, then, off to the races. But this just kind of, it's a workaround that didn't need to happen, especially not at this current time. That being said, the match was stupendous. I mean, all three of these women are really fantastic workers. They've knocked it out of the park with each other multiple times. I do think that there's a very vocal minority of Joshi fans that did not want Mina in the match because they're like, yeah, we've never seen Azumi and Mercedes wrestle before, and we want to see that particular match. And they were very angry about it and kind of shitting on the booking decision. But I thought the work spoke for itself. The work was really, 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 really good. And I do agree with what you guys had mentioned that Mercedes was hilarious when she lost the belt and, how comedic all that was. But I was really hoping for her to potentially, have this moment where she's got all 5 belts and she's the number 1 PWI woman of the year. And to just see how the internet was going to fucking explode with the picture of her looking like Ultimo Dragon with all the belts. Like that was going to piss all the right people off. And I guess it's not happening.
I mean, she's probably still a shoe-in for getting number 1 in PWI. But yeah, I thought it was a little fishy once this was a 3-way, because if she was going to retain, they could have easily have just done either a rematch, singles match with Mina, or the first ever, Mina Azumi match, or Moné Azumi match, and she could just beat them in a singles match. So it did seem kind of weird that, all right, we're going to do a 3-way here. And so, yeah, so we found out, they were trying to get the belt off of her for whatever reason. I don't know if it's to set up something in AEW or they just need to, for whatever reason, they want to get the belt on Azumi. But yeah,
I do disagree with you guys. I was stepping away for a moment to feed my dog, but I've got the noise loud enough so I can kind of hear you guys. And I understand that you think that either Willow or Stat should beat her for the first time and that be like the defining loss. I disagree. I think she needs to lose to Toni Storm in Texas. And I think it needs to headline the show.
I definitely think it should headline. It's more exciting. And I think more, it's got more, interest to it than anything the Death Riders could be doing. So I definitely think it needs to headline. I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm excited to see Mercedes' first loss, but like if Toni doesn't lose to Mercedes, who can she lose to? Like at that point, I feel like she's run out of viable contenders.
Well, here's my take on it. Toni has already lost to like Mariah May. She can lose to pretty much anybody anytime, but Mercedes has never lost one-on-one to anybody. And I understand the idea behind it being like, let's give the rub to one of the young up and coming girls. But like, here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people realize, and this is just true. In the general consensus of the audience, like people that are not just watching AEW, but like hold on, my dog is acting crazy.
Ziggy always has to make his presence known each week.
He used to not be so persnickety. He used to like, it was like he knew on Mondays we're going to go record. He would cry to come in here and he was just happy to like be in the room with me. But now like he's getting older and he's like very curmudgeon-y about like when things happen. So it's like, yeah, I have to make sure he's situated in his bed. This room is his fucking room. Like, I have to get this corner. Anyways, if you do a Google trend search of Mercedes Moné and any other woman in AEW, I understand that maybe to the hardcore audience that watches week to week, she might not be seen as very different from the other stars. But when you actually search the Google searches, she is so far beyond every single person, including Toni Storm, that it's not even fucking like no one's in the stratosphere of world renown, like known that she is, including Toni. And Toni's pretty far beyond the rest of the girls. Like I did a search and I was like, let's see who else is close to Toni. And there really isn't anybody, but like Toni's nowhere near Mercedes in terms of like how much people follow her. I think that if you have had this girl unbeaten for so long, you need it and you want to pay it off, you want to make the most money, you beat her on the biggest stage. From there, you can still have her come back, get her win, lose to, Stat, lose to Willow when the time is right. But I don't think that the payoff is going to be as big as people think it is, that it's going to make these girls the way that they think it is if we wait 6 months to a year, because that's what, if Mercedes wins here, she's not turning around and dropping a loss a month or two later. You're waiting 6 months to 12 months at the next stadium show for her to actually do the honors. I think she loses to Toni, makes Toni now, which that's the closest girl that they got in the company. And then you've got plenty of time to rebuild to whatever you want to do with the rest of this division later. One thing that I don't think a lot of people, and I know that I'm a little bit out of my element, 'cause like it's AEW. We don't talk about AEW much here, but like, I know some people are like, well, we don't want it to just be about these two women, but historically speaking, most divisions are about just two individuals. And then you build everybody else around them. Like, you look at WWE's biggest boom period. It was built around The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, or like in the 80s, Macho Man and Hulk Hogan. Like, and I could throw plenty of other, examples, Misawa, Kawada, Tanahashi, Okada. Like when you have those two focal points, you can build everybody else around them. But if you don't peak it at the right time, the rest of everybody else that's under them is going to suffer. And that's the reality. I think that they really do need to have Toni beat Mercedes, and it needs to close the show, but they're probably not going to do it.
No, I was just going to say, like, I like the picture that you're painting, like, for sure. Like, I think that sounds smart, but knowing how Toni books the women's division, I really don't think that's happening. I could potentially see them doing something like if they do a series and like Toni wins the first one and then Mercedes wins the final one. Like, I could see them doing that maybe, because to really stretch out the feud, but
I don't think that's a bad way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's going to probably determine who wins is what belts are on the line. Like, are we putting all the belts on the line? Is it just going to be the women's title, the AEW World title, or is it just the two AEW titles being on the line? I think a lot of that, too, is going to determine who wins. Like, are you going to put all those belts on Toni, and then Toni's going to be wrestling around? So,
if they don't put both belts on the line, you're going to know what the outcome is right away.
Yeah, if they do the thing like Samoa Joe came out and vacated the ROH belt, and you were like, oh, okay, because he's winning this title belt next month. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll see
because if he didn't, it would make him look like such a geek.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say the most compelling thing would be do all everything on the line, and then you have one kind of grand champion at the end. But I don't know if that's a plan.
I think Toni should beat her. I'm going to stick by it. A lot of people disagree, but I really think she should, because I know that they want the payoff later, but I don't think that payoff is coming. I think that now is when you pay it off. Biggest stage, biggest crowd, biggest match ever. Have her lose there. Because if you build it up too long, you run the risk of not being able to adequately pay it off. It becomes the Goldberg conundrum where it's like his streak went for so long, you couldn't actually beat him in a convincing way that mattered, that drew business. And it became a shit show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Toni Storm is peaking right now. Like, I feel like her crowd reactions are super hot every week. Crowds are invested into her. I feel like the character and the in-ring right now is like at the perfect spot. And so, yeah, if you want to get her even more over than she already is, then yeah, her beating Mercedes would be the right call.
Yeah, and I think if she beats Mercedes now, gets the big win, blah, 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 she's made. Mercedes wins the series. Toni can go off and do whatever she needs to do. She doesn't really need any of these belts. She's a big enough star, kind of like what Britt was a few years ago, to where she can just exist.
Yeah.
Like a star, like men do.
Yeah.
You know, there's men that are in the company that don't need a belt, you know,
right.
Hangman, Adam Page, Kenny, blah, 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 Okada. They don't need a belt. That's what you do. You have her win. Then she can drop the belts and she'll be fine. And then you can set up Mercedes as winning the series and being the pinnacle that Stat and Willow need to chase, and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
I'll also say this. I've said this many times, like privately to Rich, and this goes so against like the kind of quote unquote like the gimmick that I've built on this show. I feel like women's wrestling is the one thing that neither of these companies have really tapped into to where they can actually build a real viable business that they've just never been able to tap into.
Yeah.
Like oftentimes we look at WCW in the 90s and the niche that they built out with the cruiserweights and how marketable that was and how they never really went with it and they should have, and what that could have meant for their business. I think that it's been long overdue for North American wrestling to actually build half of their TV time around the women, the same way that they do the men. There is a viable business there to do that, and they're missing out. And just
Josh, you're breaking up a little bit there.
Never really followed through on the promises.
Yeah, I've often thought that, you know, if they ever did do either a second show or a third show or a return to YouTube, they really at this point should do a woman's only show, because they have the talent now and a lot of these girls need the reps that the men get. So they and you know, I really do think that at this point that would take off.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's big money to be made that they're kind of leaving on the table without, you know, continue to push the women and putting them in bigger spots and giving them their own shows. And I mean, we should be getting women's tag titles. I don't think we need another, you know, ROH women's, you know, pure title. Like, they should be doing some tag titles that can be defended across both the brands. There's a lot of stuff they can be doing that could be really cool.
Yeah. I think that the thing that Hangman has always done, where he's differentiated himself, as instead of just saying I'm the world champion, he's always said I'm the men's
world champion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is the best thing that he does. I love when he does that.
And he's the only one in the company that does it.
We've really tried, and sometimes it's really hard. If you ever notice, they say it's the Owen tournament and the women's Owen. And so on our show, we really try to say the men's Owen and the women's Owen, but it's, you know, it is one of those things.
It should be a situation, ideally, where the men's and the women's titles are hypothetically equal, and they're just separate but equal divisions. And it's the one thing that WWE, they came close in 2019 with Becky and Ronda, but they've never been able to actually commit to it. What's the one thing that AEW could do that could potentially cross divisional lines and like draw a new audience? Like, that's the one thing, and they've just never really committed. Well, you know, because Tony Khan said he's an ECW mark. He's never going to. That's what it comes down to.
And a ROH mark.
Well, you know, he didn't seem too intent on you know, trying to sign Sarah Del Rey and shit like that, you know.
Yeah.
Sumi Sakai. So I don't know.
Well, we have a few questions here to wrap up this Resurgence review, and we'll let Leah get out of here. So first from Death Triangle 720 says, do you think we should give up on the idea that New Japan will put any effort into the U.S. show production?
This was definitely the first New Japan pay-per-view I've watched, and I really was shocked by, like, it was just really dark and the audio was really bad. And I was like, because I feel like a lot of people have said, like, New Japan's camera angles are way better. And I was like, this is not better, but I understand that the strong shows are much different. I'm gathering from other people.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's funny because this is not even close to as bad as it's ever been. It's been so much worse at different times. But what really happens here is, like, in Japan, they have a dedicated camera crew. They have local groups that they work with at these different arenas, different towns and cities, and it's all kind of uniform and situated.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that in the US. They've got, like, a California crew, a Florida crew, a Midwest crew, and they're all very different in what they, like, can produce and perform and deliver. And this was they've had LA shows that were way better than this. This was a very much like a reversion back to what they've had in the past, and not in a good way.
Also, too, I think in Japan, they really don't care if the building's not full. Like, they're gonna, if it's a building that's fully lit, like, they're gonna light it like the way it's supposed to be lit, whether it's full or not. But in the US, they try to do the whole, let's hide the crowd gimmick, which then just makes everything look dark and weird. And
even at their best in the US, like, the top end productions, they're still, like, let's say back in the Access days when they had top of the line HD cameras and everything. They've never been as good as what they produce in Japan anyways, because there's an art to the type of production they do there, and it just doesn't compare to what they've ever, because they're not flying over the camera and sound crew and the technology like to the States. Like, they're relying on whatever indie group that they can pay out to produce these shows for them, and whoever they're working with like Fight TV, or actually they're not even working with Fight anymore, so I don't even.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, they're probably working with people from the Pacific Northwest to come, like the Defy crew or some shit, to come do this, or like Battle 123.
Yeah. Next set of questions here from Dark Soldier. He says, why does New Japan always go for the cheapest production for their U.S. shows? The show was so good, but by the wrestling gods, these need some improvements. Yeah, kind of touched on that. The production could have been better. They also ask, would you say Resurgence is the first U.S. show with some actual surprises when it comes to outcomes? Though small they may be, I thought Drilla was going to get his first singles goal. Wrong I was. We got new strong tag champs, a draw in the world title match, Azumi winning. I thought for sure she was the fall guy, even given the other two are AEW talent. This won't mean much, but is this a step in the right direction?
I can't speak to that, so that's on you.
For every surprise, there was also an equal criticism to be had. I thought it was a good show overall, but I don't know if I would point to this as the shining example of, like, we're on the right track.
But I do feel like the U.S. shows in the last year or so have, maybe the results haven't been surprising, but there's been a lot more angles. We had Jack Perry showing up. We had, Eddie Kingston. I feel like there's been a lot more angles and surprises and stuff like that versus just surprising results.
Yeah, last year, those last two strong shows leading up to the crossover Tokyo Dome, there was a lot more newsworthy stuff happening.
Yeah, you had the Young Bucks showing up. You had, like, the Takeshita showing. Like, I feel like there was, like, more things happening in some of the couple of the last U.S. shows. All right, well, that's going to wrap up our Resurgence review. Leah, thank you for joining us for this segment of the show. Go ahead and
tell us. This was so fun. And of course, I'll be back next week with my new co-host.
Yeah, we're starting you off light. We'll give you some time to catch up on Best of Super Juniors.
How many Super Junior nights are there between now and next week?
God.
So there are 4 Super Junior shows this week.
You just got 4 Super Junior shows,
and they're all double block.
I was gonna say you don't even have to watch the undercards, but that's okay. There's no undercards, so you just gotta watch
40 singles matches.
Oh no! What have I gotten myself into?
And be sure to not only that, but be sure to watch all of the post-match
backstage
promos
comments
and backstage comments after each show, so you can figure out what the minutia of Jacob Austin Young is, so you can figure out what his character motivations are.
Yeah, well, that would be the stuff I would be most interested in. So watch that be the only thing I watch. Like I skip the actual matches and I only watch the backstage.
That should be your role. Yeah, you can you can fill us in on all the backstage stuff, and then we'll cover the matches.
If you want to watch just the backstage comments every week and come on and tell us what happened, tell us about who. If you want to tell us about Clark Connors and his fucking
tire,
he's got a tire now and he's talking to the tire backstage. If you want to do that, then you can come on and do that. That's fine.
And the best part of this is that some of this will be true things that have happened, but some of it will be my interpretation, like what I felt might have been happening, and you'll never know which is which.
We'll be like, that sounds up and up. Sounds about right.
That sounds like Ishi. Well, Leah, go ahead and get your plugs in. Tell our listeners where they can follow you and find Tunnel Talk and all the stuff that y'all are doing.
We are Tunnel Talk Pod on everywhere you can get podcasts. We are Tunnel Talk Pod on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Tumblr. We are on Twitch. We haven't Twitched in a while, but we are going to be coming back and doing that again in June. Follow us anywhere you find podcasts. Join us in the Discord. We have a lot of fun. Jeremy and Josh sometimes join us. Josh tells us where he is in his Buffy journeys and his Angel journeys. And so that's very fun.
That's pretty much all I do. I can't keep up with the Tunnel Talk Discord. It's way too busy for me. Like, I don't know what anyone's talking about.
It's high work rate in there.
Yeah.
It's not as busy as the Trish and Sarah one. I stay out of there. It's too busy for me.
I just jump in. I tell people what's going on in Buffy and Angel. And I leave.
All right, guys. Well, this has been amazing. I had so much fun. Thanks
so much for joining us, Leah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Leah.
Bye.
All right. Now to get into the business end of the show. Listen, I know we've gone 2 hours, but I just got to tell you, I finally, for the first time in my life, I beat Wonder Boy in Monster World.
What is that?
So there is a Sega series of games dating back to the mid to late 80s called the Wonder Boy series, but then they diverged because there was Wonder Boy series and then there was Monster World series, and they're kind of they split off a little bit. But there are a bunch of games produced by Sega for the Master System and the arcade and for the Genesis, and I've got a Sega Mini. I don't know if I've told you about this, but it's a did you ever play Genesis?
Yeah, I had Genesis growing up. Yeah, I had all the Sonic games. I had Dungeons and Dragons, Ninja Turtles. I'm
surprised. You seem like an NES guy to me.
I had that too.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, so I had the fourth game I don't even know which Wonder Boy and Monster World, which was the preeminent version of the series in the US for the Genesis. I had that game growing up and I've played it a million times. And it's a little bit of a platformer, a little bit of a side scroller, a little bit of an RPG, but it's mostly just a hack and slash side scroller game. And I always got to this final boss, and I've never been for 36 years. I have not been able to beat this fucking boss. And I watched videos online and I was like, I'm going to fucking figure out how to beat this thing. And even that, I watched people do it and I was like, man, these people are going through hell. This thing's impossible. And I gutted through it. And I finally beat Super Mecha Brain, whatever the fuck it is. I beat it and I got the end credits. And I defeated Wonder Boy and Monster World. I'm so happy.
Well, congratulations on that.
Do you know about the Genesis Mini is?
I've heard about it. Isn't a newer mod?
It's 5 years old, but It's got 42 games loaded to it. It's just literally a little mini. It fits in the palm of your hand. You just hook it up to the TV, HDMI, and you just play it. And it's pretty fucking cool because you can save your games onto it. I've heard, I saw online that you can mod it. Like you can download. I was trying to ask Rich how to do it. Rich was trying to tell me, and I couldn't fucking figure it out. But like, you can go online and you can mod this thing, and you can delete the games and add what. So I'm gonna fucking figure this out, and I'm gonna download some of the Genesis. Bro, I'm gonna pirate this shit. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, I did it. I beat that game. Did it.
Nice.
I guess we could talk about Super Juniors now.
Yeah, so Best of the Super Junior 32, we had the first 2 nights this past weekend. Night 1 opened up in the Yohas Arena with 1,000 in attendance. So I'll run through the undercard real quick. We had the War Dogs, Robbie X, and Taiji Ishimori defeating Murashima and Ninja Mac. Then we had 6 or 9 and Kevin Knight defeating Mao, Shomakato, and Tiger Mask. Toriano and Yo defeating Hartley Jackson and Robbie Eagles. And then we got into tournament action. The first match of the tournament from the B block was the ROH TV champion, the Prodigy, Nick Wayne, defeating Show in 10 minutes and 43 seconds.
Yeah, so Nick Wayne versus Show, other people liked this a lot more than I did. I thought Nick Wayne looked pretty good. I thought that Show was exactly what you would expect from Show, and it just was such a shame in 2025 thinking back what this match could have been, considering Show's, you know, innate abilities that are just never on display, and I'm wondering if they ever will come back. But it was fine. I thought it was a good showcase for what Nick Wayne is capable of doing. I thought a lot of people were surprised at him winning on this night, and we're kind of considering it a bit of an upset. And even though I myself have been on this show saying that I don't see Nick Wayne doing, I think he'll have a good tournament performance wise. I don't know if his end total will be the highest point total per se, but you know, Show didn't just turn heel a month ago like he did 3 or 4 years ago. Like we've been with this show for quite a while now. This is not a guy that's going to go deep in this tournament. So I'm not surprised that Nick Wayne beat him here. What I am surprised about is this new finish. Now, keep in mind, I'm not watching ROH and AEW as often as others. So I wasn't familiar with this Prodigy Plex finish that he's doing, which is pretty cool. My understanding, he was doing like a cutter finish before, and I think that's still his finish in AEW.
Yeah, the Wayne's World, that his version of the Oz Cutters, what he did on the Indies and kind of what he did as a babyface. But yeah, lately he's been relying more on the Prodigy Plex. But my understanding was that this is a Japanese only primary finish, and that the Wayne's World is still his like American finish. I don't know. He beat Jay Lethal on Dynamite 2 weeks ago with the Prodigy Plex. Okay. Trying to think, he wrestled somebody else recently to Rhino. I think he beat Rhino with the Prodigy Plex also. Okay, then I was mistaken. I thought this was a situation where, like, you know, Hogan in the US, he drops the leg drop, but when he gets to Japan, it's the Axe Boomba, you know? Axe Boomba. So I thought that's what we were seeing here. You know, when Nick Wayne comes to Japan, Prodigy Plex. Yeah, no, I think, the Wayne's World has been more of almost like a near fall finish now. He's really been relying more on the Prodigy Plex. Well, I like it better the way I said it. I want it to. I'm a big fan of Western wrestlers having a Japanese only finish. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. That way, 30 years from now, people can be on social media, however the fuck that's going to work, and be like, man, Nick Wayne really was a different wrestler when he got to Japan. Yeah, Japan was Prodigy Plex. All different gear. He had different music. He had that crazy Prodigy Plex. Different person altogether. So this was a fine opening for the tournament. Show working over Nick Wayne's arm. So I think that's going to be the out for Nick Wayne going later in the tournament, because Show worked over the arm and shoulder, had the cross arm breaker on for a while there, but Nick Wayne was able to come back and hit the Prodigy Plex to get the win, get his first 2 points on the board. I wouldn't even be surprised if he goes on a winning streak early on and gets 3 or 4 of these things back to back. You know what I mean? And then the typical win your first 3 or 4, and then he drops the last 5. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the mounting arm injury starts to rear its ugly head and becomes his downfall. I could see that potentially happening here. I was also surprised. I was like, B block. I was like, why are they mixing the B and the A block on the first? And then I realized, like, oh, Clark Connors is in the US, and they probably needed to like figure out how to make all this shit work with him, working Resurgence and all that.
Yeah, he had to get on a red eye right after that match and head straight to Japan. So yeah, they mix it up there. Yeah, I think they gave him time to get there and do some A block matches the second night also. So good stuff there. Then we moved to the A block. We had Dragon Dia from Dragon Gate defeating Yoshinobu Kanemaru in 10 minutes and 51 seconds.
Kanemaru going with the old faithful, working the knee, working the leg. Sometimes it helps him to be a spoiler, but unfortunately on this night, Dragon Dia, last time he was in this tournament, he got a taste of victory, and he's like, I like that. I want some more of that.
Yeah, last time he beat Kushida to end up going 1-8.
And he was like, I already know how to beat an old man. So we got that shit figured out. So I just need to do some more of that. And he definitely did some more of that. People very, very high on Dragon Dia this time around. I think he was impressive the last time, but I feel like there's a bit more of a crowd connection and familiarity, even though there's a bit of a new edge to him in this iteration of the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's not coming out with the skateboard anymore. He's wearing a Dragon Kid mask. He's trained by Dragon Kid, who's trained by Ultimo Dragon, so kind of in that lineage. So wearing that mask, no skateboard, really great gear, and so yeah, definitely seems like he's kind of leveled up here. And yeah, I thought he looked really good. I think he's a very kind of smooth worker, very fluid in some of the high flying stuff he can do. And like you mentioned, Uncle Nobu trying to slow him down, working the knee and the leg, going for the figure 4. But that Dia was able to escape all of that. Kanemaru then tried to do the swig of the whiskey and spit the whiskey in Dia's face, but Dia kicked him in the back of the head and got a quick roll up and was able to defeat Uncle Nobu, get his first 2 points on the board.
I was gonna say something, but I don't remember.
All right, well, I got a question from Rambo. It says, any thoughts on the changes in Dragon Dia's work and presentation? I thought that he came into this tournament looking much improved.
Yeah, I think that it's easier to take him a bit more seriously as a strong contender in the tournament. That's not to say, I mean, he was a champion going into the last Best Super Juniors that he participated in, but the company just was dead set on, kind of presenting him one way. And I think he's endeared himself, and he's got a little bit of cachet with the audience and presented a little more seriously. I've got this thing where, like, I don't think you can take a skateboard wrestler only so seriously. I think Darby Allin has probably pushed the limits of how seriously you can push and accept a skateboard wrestler. But, in Japan, that's a totally different proposition. So he got rid of that shit, I mean, I'm just going to say it. Shane Douglas, he never won the NWA world title until he got rid of the skateboard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dragon Dia, he's going to be the next IWGP junior heavyweight champion. He ditched the skateboard and he picked up the win here.
Yeah. So then following that, we had A block. We had Kosei Fujita defeating Francisco Akira in 12 minutes and 3 seconds.
I felt like this match was maybe not as good as these guys are capable of having when it comes to like match quality against one another. But at the same time, it was third from the top. And it was a highly important match considering who was involved. Kosei Fujita and Francesco Akira, two of the young guys that are very much in play for the block finals just in general. So, there's a lot of stakes involved. This is a very important match. And I thought it was one of probably the second best match of the night. It definitely delivered to a certain extent. I just don't know if it was up to the upper echelons of what these two guys are capable of doing against one another. At the same time, you know, I haven't gone back and looked to see how many times Fujita and Francesco Akira have wrestled one another. If it was me, I probably would have booked this as a potential main event later on in the tour. The fact that this wasn't the main event was a little perplexing, but I still thought it was a highly enjoyable outing. I'd still go like 3.5. I thought they did a lot of high flying, very exciting. The crowd was very much into it and supporting both guys. And it was anybody's match to win. And, you know, Fujita picks up the very important two points here. So,
yeah, I thought the match was very good. Akira was working over the midsection of Fujita, attacked it with knee to the gut, and then he had like a bear hug applied on the mat, and then doing a moonsault. So all of his offense was targeted towards the midsection of Fujita, and so Fujita fighting back from that. Akira did a really great flip dive towards the 8-minute mark in the match, and getting a near fall with a German suplex, and then Fujita hit a German of his own for a near fall. And then Fujita hit a burning hammer style maneuver. It was kind of like his, I forget what he called it, the last hope or whatever, but he did that maneuver and got the pin over Francesco Akira and got the win. Also, Kevin Knight was on commentary for these matches, and I thought he was very entertaining for the whole show. And when Akira did a moonsault, he was like, when Akira learn to do that?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And I was wondering if he was alluding to like a Jeff Cobb thing there.
Yeah. So moving on to the next matchup, we had from the A block, Hiromu Takahashi defeating Kushida in 13 minutes and 3 seconds.
There is a part of me where I'm like, yeah, maybe I need to make peace with the idea that Kushida and Hiromu just aren't what they used to be in the ring, or the fact that the kayfabe of this once great rivalry is never going to really be paid off or revisited in any meaningful way. Because, you know, for fans that have been kind of following the history of these two guys' interactions with one another, going back through Super Juniors and their battles over the IWGP title, this was at one point like the defining feud of the junior division for a generation, and it's never worked or referred to in quite that way. I still think that Charlton does a good job alluding to it and everything, but I don't know. The work isn't quite there. It's still a good match, but it's not ever what I hope or dream that it could or should be. With that being the case, you know, Hiromu picks up the win here, 13 minutes. Solid match. I'd still go 3 stars. Crowd was into both these guys, but for a semi-main event, a little uninspiring. I might have at this point sort of flip-flopped this match with the Fujita and Akira match, maybe, potentially.
Yeah, this was not what you would call the typical match these guys would have. It was more ground-based, as usual, Kushida working over the arm and Hiromu was working over the knee to set up for his new finisher, Maximum the Holding. And so, yeah, it was more of a grappling base. When you picture Hiromu and Kushida, you look back at 2017 and you're thinking of the high flying and the match where Kushida gets knocked out and all the crazy matches that they had in the rivalry. And like you mentioned, for whatever reason, they're just not doing that or making it that important. And so they did a totally different style of matchup here. And it's all because of that hand, foot, and mouth disease, the downfall of Kushida.
The hoof mountain foot disease.
So Hiromu using that Maximum the Holding, getting the win here. And I'm wondering if that is going to be the story of Hiromu's Super Juniors, where he's working on winning more via submission than using the time bomb or any high flying stuff.
Well, we're in a post LIJ world, so anything involving him or Shingo is going to be precarious to say the least.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we had a question from Few Shoulder 2780. Now that LIJ has disbanded, what do you think the future holds for Shingo, Hiromu, and Tsuji?
I'll give you the Lex Luger. I don't know. They're gonna figure something out, but it's very clear we're in a transitionary period, and you know, the answer should come to us shortly.
Yep. So then the main event from the B block, we have the champion El Desperado defeating Teton in 14 minutes and 10 seconds. They point out, Teton has had Despi's number over the last couple of tournaments, and so Despi really needed to get a win back here.
Yeah, these guys have faced off 4 or 5 times. They have like an annual returning bout with one another. A very, very, very good chemistry. My personal opinion, I felt like this was the worst of the matches that they've had in the series, but that's not to say that the match wasn't very good. I think it fell short of what I would call quote unquote great, meaning it was just shy of like a 4-star match, but thus far of the 2 nights, I think it's the match of the tournament. I think that they have incredible chemistry with each other. They got a lot of good time here. And the crowd was very into it, and kind of makes me feel like Teton is, even in loss, probably going to do very, very well in this tournament. Like you mentioned, Desperado sort of needed to kind of rebound because he's lost to Teton so many times in the past, especially recently.
Yeah, I also thought this was a very important match for him to win because I think that there could be some potential tiebreaker stuff that comes down the road that this match, you're going to look back to this and be like, all right, who did Despi beat? Who did Teton beat? Who did they beat each other? Because, Teton being a finalist in the past, Despi being a champion. So very important matchup with Despi getting a very important tiebreaker win here over Teton having his pocket later on in the tournament. And yeah, I thought it was a very good matchup. We saw the Despi game plan as usual, trying to get the numero dos submission and then working in the Pinche Loco in between. Teton doing a lot of really cool high flying, did really two cool suicide dives, and then a big tope con hilo at one point in the match. I liked when Despi had Teton in a submission and he was slowly trying to untie his mask, and the Red Cheese was catching him every time. So yeah, really good stuff there. And then towards the end, it was Teton trying to hit the double stomp. He got that to the back, but Despi was able to kick out and reapply the stretch muffler, the numero dos, and get the submission victory on Teton. And that's going to take us to night 2, which was in Miyagi with an attendance of 1,369. So we had Akira and Jacob Austin Young defeating Dragon Daya and Murashima, Daiki Nagai and Nick Wayne defeating Despi and Chomakato, Hiromu and Shingo defeating TMDK, Harley Jackson, and Kosei Vegeta. Thought it was very interesting, no LIJ nameplate next to Hiromu and Shingo, so definitely the thing is gone. They're considered unaffiliated, so that was interesting. And then tournament action. We opened up with A block here, Ninja Mac defeating Robbie X in a match that has gone viral on social media.
The funny thing is, okay, between the 2 nights, for whatever reason, I felt like night 2 never seemed to peak quite as high match quality wise. That's just my personal opinion, as the top 2 matches of night 1. But across the board, this was a more consistently good Super Juniors night, in my opinion. And there was like kind of I don't know if remarkable is the right word, but there was shining moments in many of these matches that like stood out, that kind of captured the attention of like people online, and they were posting GIFs and stuff like that. And sort of here with this particular match, the one moment that stood out to everybody, Ninja Mac, he goes to starts hitting the back handsprings, and he's going to hit like the Muda special or whatever. Robbie X goes to the outside to kind of avoid it. And Ninja Mac springboards over the top rope like he's doing the ninja
space
special flying tiger drop. and the ninja special, he lands on his feet. He just keeps fucking going. And Robbie X starts trying to run away in fear, and Ninja Mac keeps going and catches him all the way down at the end of the entrance ramp. That was a pretty even. I thought the match was really smooth and really fun and energetic and a good opener for the second night of the tournament. But that's clearly a moment that like is going to stand out. And it's one of those things that is really going to get someone like Ninja Mac noticed based on like his abilities. And the last thing I'll say before I kick it off to you, Jeremy, it's kind of funny. Like Ninja Mac, he posted recently like that when he became a wrestler, he had to give up this dream of being a gymnast. I don't know too much about that, but I saw him posting what he could do on the blue mat, and he's, doing all these flips and backhand springs and blah, blah, blah. And it just reminds me of our friend Ben, like, who used to backyard wrestle with you. And I'm like, man, this man, Ben, was just as good as Ninja Mac with what he could do. And he wrestled one match. We all went to it, and he got hit with the Hurricane Rana and pinned 1, 2, 3 in 3 seconds because he got lazy and stopped going to training, and they jobbed him out. And he got pissed and decided to never wrestle again. This man could be working Super Juniors right now with how aerial he was at the time. And listen, he's probably not listening now. I know he used to be a regular listener, but like, Ben, you need to get your ass back in shape.
Yeah, I used to love wrestling Ben just because of the stuff he can do. And like, I could just throw him and he would flip, and then just all the cool stuff he can do, catching him and flipping, and just the Hurricane Ranas. Like, he would do all kind of crazy, like the Dragon Ranas, the 450s. He would do all the crazy stuff.
He could do everything Ninja Mac does.
Yeah. But yeah, Ninja Mac was awesome.
People are probably listening, and they probably think like that's cap. It's not cap. It's literally not cap.
Yeah,
like, at all.
Ben was a cheerleader, and yeah, we used to wrestle in the cheerleading gym, and so yeah, all the springboard, all that flippy do stuff. Yeah, Ben was awesome at doing all that stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
But yeah, Ninja Mac was great in this match, and yeah, that moment went viral on social media. ESPN posted it on their TikTok, and all these people were like, whoa, what is this on there? So really cool moment there. And yeah, I thought Ninja Mac looked really good. So did Robbie X, coming in replacing Bushi. So he's probably going to be eating a lot of losses, considering he's replacing Bushi in this tournament. And Ninja Mac starting off with a big win here.
Yeah. We'll see how both of these guys' tournaments. I thought Robbie X, I don't want to diminish him either. I thought he looked really good. I know some people have been critical of him for a variety of reasons, but I thought he looked good here too.
Yeah, he had a lot of cool stuff. He had a running shooting star, and I think there was another dive he did earlier on too. But yeah, he looked really good as well. And we had a question from Dark Soldier. He says, is Ninja Mac a bad ninja? Ninjas are supposed to be unseen, yet there he is on screen again and again, and pressing the hell out of us.
I don't know. He's got a point, but like, I like to play. Speaking of Sega Genesis, I've been playing The Revenge of Shinobi, and he's on the screen the entire time. He's never unseen. Except for the the opponents that I kill, they don't see it coming. But other than that,
the Ninja Turtles, I always saw them.
That's true.
Tozawa and the ninjas on during the pandemic.
Ninja Turtles don't count though. They're not even really real ninjas. You know what I mean? Just wearing a headband around your eyes doesn't make you a fucking ninja. Did you ever see when WWF had Ninja Turtle gimmick wrestlers wrestling in the ring?
Yeah, in the suit things or whatever.
Yeah.
Next up, we had the Super Junior first appearance of Mao from DDT, and he defeated the Jet Kevin Knight in 9 minutes and 34 seconds.
I was impressed with Mao. Always impressed with Kevin Knight. I noticed a lot of people praising Kevin Knight's ability on the mic when he commentated Night 1, which I thought was a little funny, because it's like, oh, y'all want to praise Kevin Knight now, but like we noticed this man on Night 7 or whatever the fuck it was, last year. This man's always been good on commentary, but you guys notice now, but you didn't notice back then. But this was another match where there was the standout moment. Kevin Knight puts Mao in an abdominal stretch, and Mao is able to reverse that and put him into his own abdominal stretch. But his abdominal stretch consists of him raising his body up, making it as square as muscular as possible. And just the visual that was kind of created there was pretty fucking funny. But I think a lot of people were kind of surprised here to see Mao picking up, and maybe others weren't, because I mentioned on this show last week that's like, Mao, he's well known in the DDT circles and stuff, but I haven't been too privy to his work. But I've seen some people that seem to kind of know what his background is, predicting him to do very well in this tournament. I don't know if I can concur with that just yet, but picking up a win over Kevin Knight, who's being pushed pretty heavily in AEW, that definitely speaks to something. I don't know what it is. I mean, we'll have to wait and see what the point totals look like when it all evens out. But I thought this was another very good match on the evening.
Yeah, this match was a lot of fun. Not totally surprised that Mao won, just considering that they usually like to give debut guys their first win, kind of start the tournament. So I do expect Kevin Knight to also get some more wins down the road. But they wanted to highlight Mao here, and I thought, this is pretty much the first time I've really seen a singles match from him, and I thought he was great. He did a lot of cool springboard stuff. He did a slingshot stunner. He was doing a frog splash. He did a lot of cool stuff in between the octopus stretch that you mentioned. There's a lot of great exchanges with him and Kevin Knight with their high flying. They both did super Frankensteiners to each other, exchanging the strikes. Mao had a great Michinoku driver for a near fall towards the end of the match, and then he did a big super kick to get the win. Yeah, so really good match. I really liked Kevin Knight's gear. Had a new gold and silver gear. I thought it looked really good. And also, of note,
it looked like Tommy the White Ranger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he did. Also, to note, on the nameplate, they put both the Lion Mark and AEW logo, the same thing they do with Takeshita. So then, following that, we had Clark Connors defeating Master Wato in 10 minutes and 35 seconds. And like you mentioned earlier, kind of the big thing here, Clark has introduced this tire where he rammed Wato's knee on it and worked the knee over the whole match until eventually he was able to hit the no chaser and get the win.
I mean, anytime you can get the Defy World Champion in the ring with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champion, that just screams dream match.
Oh, yeah.
That's what this was, third from the top. I don't know what the fuck is going on with Clark Connors and the tire and the new jacket. And I'm like, is he spark plug, Clark Connors? Are we going in a new gimmick direction? Like, what's the deal? Maybe he's just a car guy. I don't know. But, Wato won this tournament 2 years ago. And this is a big win for Clark Connors, who is very much at this point higher up in the pecking order than Wato. So in a certain sense, kayfabe wise, is it kind of surprising given Wato's previous success in the tournament? Yes. But given Clark Connors' stature within the division recently, not too surprising. And then, Wato's got the out with the, the knee being attacked and everything. And I'm sure that will continue to play itself out through the course of the tournament. But Clark Connors picks up a big win there. I am wondering what the deal is with the fucking tire.
Yeah, it's funny. He couldn't find it after the match. He was like, "Where's my tire? Where's the
tire?" Backstage he was reconnected with the tire, so it is what it is. But
yeah, tire son.
I don't know if that's what he's calling it. I didn't watch the backstage comments. We need Leah to come back on here and fill us in.
Yeah. Then following that semi-main event from the B block, we had our friend Robbie Eagles defeating Yo in 15 minutes and 2 seconds.
Did Yo win this tournament during the pandemic as well? Or did he just get close? I can't remember.
I think he just got close because Hiromu won it like 3 times, like 21, 22, 23. Yeah.
Well, Yo is still a hoe, and it, that persists. Robbie Eagles, they mentioned on commentary the, record-setting foreigner to show up in this tournament. Did you notice B. Priestley kept using the Gaijin word over and over, and like how that's like supposed to be very offensive? But she's like, I'm the top.
Yeah.
Anyways, Robbie Eagles, making his record 7th, tournament, appearance. And I thought this was pretty good. And I'm glad that he beat Yo, because I'm over the Yo thing. And I think it's high time for Robbie to have a deep run or even potentially win this tournament.
Yeah, I'm all in for Robbie having a good run here. A little bit of shenanigans in this match. Robbie giving a kiss to Yo towards the beginning there to try and lure Yo in, which then led to Yo trying to kiss Robbie back. And then from there, Robbie working the game plan, working the leg, looking for the Ron Miller special, did the 450 on the leg, and towards the end was able to lock in the Ron Miller, and Yo had no choice but to tap out. And then that took us to the main event here. We had Ryusuke Taguchi defeating Taiji Ishimori in his hometown, 16 minutes and 48 seconds.
Well, this might have seemed random to other individuals, but I will never forget Taguchi, playing the Sailor Boys music and bringing up the history of Ishimori during the 2019 Fantascomania tour. So, old country beef still playing itself out here. There's a lot of people that were wondering why Taguchi was even in this tournament, and they're probably not wrong. But, even more so, there's probably people wondering why the fuck was he slotted to be in the main event of night 2 of the tournament. And with it being Ishimori's hometown, you kind of had to figure like, oh, I guess Ishimori's probably going to go over, but that
was Taguchi's home. I think it might have been both of theirs, but it was definitely Taguchi's hometown.
Then I made the mistake there. I thought you said it was Ishimori. See, because it was Japanese commentary, I wasn't sure whose town it was, but that's my bad. But yeah, Taguchi picks up the big win here. They pull an anti-WWE-ism here. He picks up the win in his hometown. And what I thought was the match of the night, which you generally speaking, you hope that the main event is going to be the top match, and Taguchi was able to get the ankle lock. There was still a little bit of shenanigans, but less shenanigans than you expect in a situation like this. There's some high drama, and Taguchi kind of played a little bit of a Cinderella man here and was able to pick up the 1-2-3, or not 1-2-3, but the tap out.
Yeah, locked on that micro ankle on Ishimori to get the submission win. And yeah, I think we got a little flashback of big match Taguchi. And, it used to be a thing that used to say on the show all the time when we talked about Super Juniors, you can't count Taguchi out.
I've counted him out.
Yeah, in the past couple of years, he's killed that statement. But yeah, I thought he looked really good in this match. Yeah, main event hometown. He's doing all the big Taguchi spots here, and then worked over the ankle throughout the match to lock on the micro ankle, get Ishimori to tap out, and send the crowd home happy and pick up 2 points in the tournament.
Yeah, so good ending to the second night of the tournament. I don't know if I would classify either of these shows as classic Super Junior shows through and through, but I thought they were both very easy watches, very fun, and had some interesting developments, and it didn't leave a sour taste in my mouth at all. I'm looking forward to what we have, on the docket for the next coming week or so. Some interesting stuff. I'll kind of run through what we have for the rest of the tournament. Any final thoughts on these 2 nights for you, Jeremy?
No, I thought it was very good. Nothing blow away yet, but good start to the tournament. Very interesting that on opposite side of the blocks, you have Hiromu and Despy, who are both pick up their first wins, and then you got some young guys like Fujita and Nick Wayne and Mal gets their points there. So yeah, interesting start so far. We did have a question from Def Triangle 720. He says, so far for the non-regulars, who do you think has shown a lot in the Best Super Juniors?
Well, I guess it's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I feel like the 3 individuals that are quote-unquote non-regulars that have had good accountings for themselves, that'd be like Mao, Nick Wayne, and probably Ninja Mac. I guess I could say Kevin Knight too, but I kind of don't count him.
Yeah, I guess you can. Dragon Dia. It's only second time.
Dragon Dia too. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I would say so far I was probably most impressed with Mao out of all those newcomers.
Especially since we've only heard of his reputation and seen him in some crossover shows, but never in singles action. So yeah, I thought that he had a good accounting for himself.
Yeah.
So this coming week, we've got Super Juniors night 3 through 7 on May 14th, this coming Wednesday, Cork and Hall. You would have normally would expect Cork and Hall to be where they started the tour, but not so.
Yeah.
But we have nothing but tournament action for the remainder of this week's show. So on night 3, you've got Taguchi Titan, Ninja Mac versus Akira, Kevin Knight and Eagles, Kushida and Robbie X, Mao and Ishimori, Connors, Kanemaru, Yo versus Sho, Roppongi 3K, Wato versus Dragon Dia, Despy versus Nick Wayne, and the main event is Fujita versus Hiromu. Anything particular, tickling your fancy there, Jeremy?
Well, I think the main and semi-main, Despy and Nick Wayne should be a very interesting match, especially if Despy trying to hit on Nick Wayne's mom on Twitter. And then Hiromu and Fujita. Fujita's kind of peaking right now. He's a hot young guy that everybody's kind of getting behind. And so I think him in there in the main event with Hiromu is going to be a big spot, especially after his title match with Despy earlier this year. So I think both of those matches from a kayfabe and an in-ring standpoint are going to be very good watches.
Yeah, I agree. Thursday, May 15th, my birthday, we've got Taguchi versus Mao, Dragon Dia versus Connors, Yo versus Kevin Knight, Kushida versus Ninja Mac, Eagles versus Wayne, Robbie X versus Kanemaru, Titan versus Mao, Wato versus Fujita, Despy versus Ishimori, and Hiromu versus Francesca Akira. And I got to say, on paper, right now, match or card of the tournament, and that's going to be a hard card to overcome. I mean, there's a lot there to really. Kushida versus Ninja Mac is very intriguing. Eagles versus Nick Wayne, that spells show stealer all over it.
Titan and Mao.
That sounds awesome. Wato and Fujita, it could be a sleeper. Despy and Ishimori, that always delivers.
And that was the finals last year.
Yeah, and then Hiromu and Francesco Akira have had incredible matches as well. So it's like, this is going to be a really... Oh, you know what? Here's one thing. On this rundown, you got Taguchi and Mao and Titan versus Mao. So which one is it?
Oh, Botchamania. Hold on, let me pull up the schedule here and see. Yeah, Cage Match had everything wrong, so I had to type everything from the New Japan site and not just copy and paste like I normally do. So it is actually Taguchi versus Sho. That's what that should be.
Okay, makes more sense. But yeah, that looks like a really. I mean, they're going all out to honor the young boy here. My day of birth. They're putting on one of the best shows of the tournament. I'm going to be surprised if this one doesn't really, really, really deliver.
Yeah, this should be a great show, top to bottom.
Night 5 on the 17th from Yoyogi National Stadium. So those first 2 nights in Cork and Hall, this time we've got it from Yoyogi. You got Wato and Ninja Mac, Taguchi and Yo, Akira Kanemaru, Eagles and Sho, Connors and Robbie X, I should say, Titan and Ishimori, Kushida, Fujita, Kevin Knight and Nick Wayne, Takahashi and Dragon Dia. And your main event is El Desperado and Mao. And I know El Desperado Mao is a match that they've been wanting to have for a while now. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that could potentially be a match of tournament contender right there.
Hiromu and Dragon Dia. And, them putting Despy and Hiromu in these top 2 spots screams we might go back to these 2 guys again. And not necessarily. They might ultimately be top point getters and then just kind of get edged out at the very end. But like, kind of makes you feel like Hiromu and Desperado might be going to the well again here.
Yeah, which would be weird to do with Despi as champion.
Yes, but it's also one of those things where it's like they've done weird things recently in New Japan that they're not used to doing, and I'd have to look back. I know in the G1 they've had the champion win before. I don't know if that's happened with Super Juniors, but I feel like with the proliferation of how many times Liger was involved in the tournament finals, I have to imagine he was probably champion for some or one of those.
Yeah.
I think I almost want to say for sure he did win one as champion, but I could be wrong. So there could be some precedent there, but we'll see what happens. Anything else, sticking out to you there?
Kevin Knight and Nick Wayne, they both come from Pacific Northwest, both trained Nick Wayne's dad, Buddy Wayne, the Buddy Wayne dojo, as they say on Japanese commentary. So yeah, that should be a really good match.
Yep. You're absolutely right there. And then the final night 6, this is Sunday, May 18th from Esforza Arena, Hachioji. We got Takuji and Nick Wayne, Ninja Mac and Kanemaru, Kevin Knight and Titan, Fujita Robbie X, Yo versus Mao, Kushida versus Dragon Dia, Eagles and Ishimori, Wato and Akira. Semi-main event, Despi versus Sho. And then the main event is Hiromu and Clark Connors. And let's go, Clark. Hook him up.
Yeah, Clark's been really stepping up this year. Great wild match with Despi in that hardcore match. So, yeah, it'd be cool to see what he does there with Hiromu in the main event. Don't expect much from Despi and Sho in the semi-main. Wato and Akira, that could be a sleeper match there. And yeah, some other really good matches here on this card.
Yeah, all in all, it's a good-looking tournament, and it's definitely it's a good week's worth of matches that I'm looking forward to. And obviously, by the time we record next week, we'll have a much clearer indication of where we're headed, because we'll be basically halfway through the tournament at that point.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and so let's jump into the news. So the first bit of news here, former IWGP Junior Champion Sabu passed away at 60 yesterday, May the 11th. We had 2 questions here from Solid Deuce. That's messed up. What's your favorite match or memory of Sabu? And then Navith also said, also with the news of Sabu passing away, any favorite matches of his? Jeremy, any, what are your thoughts and memories when it comes to Sabu?
Yeah, dude, I loved Sabu growing up, and I didn't really watch ECW in real time because I was the peak of ECW. I was like 6 or 7, but every once in a while I had a TV in my room, and then you flip the channels late at night, and yeah, you would just see the syndicated ECW. Like, what is this? What is going on? And then there were several moments where there was ECW invasions on Raw. Then also that led into the whole like one night stand stuff. And they did a ton of documentaries. I've seen so many ECW documentaries. And yeah, I just always loved Sabu and his whole presentation, starting out with him, being, taped up to the board, and they would drag him out there like he's like Hannibal Lecter, the face mask, and he's all, they have him strapped up to the board, and they would unleash him, and, him putting himself through tables after matches, like, and keep moonsaulting him until he broke the tables, and his feud with Taz, his tag team with Rob Van Dam, and you had Bill Alfonso out there blowing the whistle, and they're just doing these crazy double team moves, and then you look into even some of the stuff he did in WWE, which also it wasn't as good as the stuff in ECW or stuff he did in Japan, but it was cool seeing him, in there with John Cena, and the Rey Mysterio one night stand match was awesome. The way that ended with the springboard DDT through the table, and then him just kind of being a part of that ECW brand. And yeah, in high school, we would always like run around and just randomly run up to each other and do like the Sabu taunt, point to the air kind of thing. His TNA run was fun too. He had the Monsters Ball match with Abyss. That was pretty good. And Yeah, this guy just was awesome to watch. So influential. A lot of stuff we see now was because of Sabu. I know people want to, give the Dudleys credit for tables, but I feel like Sabu was really the guy that really popularized tables in North America. A lot of the high flying stuff, the way that he would use the chairs, do those Arabian moonsaults and presses and stuff like that to the outside. And, he's a guy that no matter how much he would botch, like he would get right back up and do it. And you look at his body, man, how scarred up it was and all the barbed wire matches he was in, and just like from an aura and a character, like you believe this guy was crazy, that he would hurt you. Look at his body. Look, like if he's doing that to his own body, imagine what he's going to do to your body. Like he was such a great character and presence and aura and superstar. Yeah, definitely really enjoyed watching Sabu in his run.
Yeah, when you were mentioning what he did in TNA, I just started looking up. I'm like, didn't he have a match with Samoa Joe? And I was like, I have a memory of that. And I just looked it up. He wrestled Samoa Joe for the X Division title in a steel cage match from Lockdown. And I was like, oh yeah, that match was not good.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of good stuff in TNA for him, but mainly I think the Abyss match was like his best thing.
Yeah, there was I remember there being a match with AJ Styles, a ladder match from like 2010 that I was very excited about as well. That also wasn't too great. I know him and RVD had a Hardcore Justice match that was really good.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was around from the inception of TNA. Like he had matches with like Ken Shamrock and shit like that, Monty Brown, and like the early days of the company. But it's kind of funny because I got the news. I did watch the match with Joey Janela. Did you see the news that came out today?
Oh yeah, about like him taking some kind of drug to like get through the match, something like that.
It was kratom, and I don't know. It's an iffy thing. It's very, very. It sounds, to me honest. I saw someone's tweet where they said like, someone who is a wrestler, who is a grown man, who can make their own decisions. That's on them, and at the same time, it can also fall on the promoters and the people that are in control of the event to step in and make a judgment call when it's necessary, when someone's not fit, because these guys are not going to protect themselves. And those two things can be simultaneously true. And it probably is true. Like, who is it? Brett Lauderdale? Is he
yeah.
Him and Joey Janela should have probably, if this guy's foot was bleeding and his knees were shot and he couldn't fucking walk to the building except for being drugged up. I'll just tell you, as someone who's, I'm not like a wrestler, but as someone who I've trained, I won't get in the ring with someone that's on fucking drugs.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good, and I know it happens, and I know it's one of those things people don't like to talk about, but I don't think you should get in the fucking ring if you're on drugs. If you have to protect someone with their life, you shouldn't be on fucking drugs, period.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know how kratom is, it is legal, and it's, I don't know. I don't want to speak to, I've never done kratom, but it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it's like, I wouldn't get in the ring with someone who did fucking salvia. I'm not going to get in the ring with someone that did some fucking, it'd be like getting in the ring with someone that did, like spice, like no. and the horrible thing was that match. Did you see that match, bro?
No, I didn't watch it.
Oh, bro, it was a fucking shit show. Sabu takes 2 of the worst bumps I have ever seen. Not in his career, just period. Like he took, it was a no ropes barbed wire. They brought out this contraption where this barbed wire net had been constructed, but it's GCW, so it's not like a good net. It's like a janky ass net that's like built around 2x4, and he jumps into it and he almost like cuts his throat. I was nervous, like he was freaking out, like trying to get out, and I was nervous. I was like, he's gonna cut his jugular, like this is horrible. And he was all scarred up, and that was early on in the match. And then the next spot was like they had a door. They didn't have barbed wire around the whole ring. They just had it on the 2 sides. and they had a door. Bro, you got to go watch this. Maybe you shouldn't see it. Maybe you shouldn't see it at this point. But like they had a door propped up on the barbed wire, and Joey Janela Irish whips him into the door, and he breaks through the fucking door and just hits the cement so fucking hard. Like Veda Scott was on the call. I swear to God, if she was quote unquote selling the drama, she did the best job of selling I've ever seen, because she was like, nope. This needs to stop. That was bad. Like, because bro, he's 60 years old. He hasn't wrestled in 5 years, and he fucking hits the cement. Like it's horrible. And then he dies 2 weeks later. Like, oh God, that's so bad.
Yeah, not good.
And Joey Janela being like, I was trying to get him a payday. It's like, well, you should probably own your shit and shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah.
But anyways, I think Sabu, I was kind of gutted when I heard this news yesterday. Rich kind of pointed out some of the shit that he said online a couple years ago that I didn't know about. And I was like, that's really terrible. And I'm not even going to like give him the pass for it. But at the same time, I think most wrestlers, especially with my experience working with wrestlers, like they're pretty much mostly terrible people. So I don't expect good things from most of these.
Especially people. Somebody who worked at ECW.
I don't think almost anybody that worked in ECW is. I think they're all scumbags. They worked for Paul Heyman for years. Like, come on. Racist, homophobic. Like, and I'm not even saying those are good things. Or I think they're all pretty much scum of the earth. Most likely. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But in terms of just the character, what he brought to the table for his influence, I do think he's a Hall of Famer. And not in the sense, did he ever draw the money that other people did? No. Did he ever have the match quality that other people had? No. But when it comes to that aspect of lasting legacy and influence, I think post 1990s, the most influential U.S. wrestler, period. Because nobody was diving into crowds before Sabu. Nobody was breaking tables before Sabu, and nobody was bringing barbed wire in the United States at all. Like, there was a hardcore element, but it was mostly brawling and blood and weapons. And he brought stunts and dives and breaking through shit in a way that nobody else had ever done. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like you. Like, I didn't grow up in real time watching ECW, but I was exposed to it. I was on a podcast recently where I was talking about, like, I used to try and watch ECW where, like, when the pay-per-views were on, I had a TV that was not connected to a cable box, but was connected to the cable outlet. And you could get to the pay-per-view channels. And what you would do is you'd flip back and forth, flip back and forth, flip back and forth. And sometimes it would start to come through scrambled. But you couldn't actually see it, but you could hear the audio, and then it would do the wavy it would do the wavy thing. And like, people would try to do that to watch like Spice Channel, but I was doing it to watch like Living Dangerously. And that's how I would try to watch like ECW late at night on Sunday nights. Like, after church, I would come back from church and I would like turn on the shit, and I'd be in the other room, like secretly hiding from my parents, like listening to like Danny Doring and 911 and shit like that. But you would see those old videos, and this guy was diving off of chairs, off of tables, you just
all springboard stuff that you weren't really seeing.
It's, if you go back and you watch his matches today, it is kind of it is still very crazy, very death defying, and sometimes smooth, sometimes a shit show. But it's kind of tame compared to what we're used to seeing from the athleticism on display today. It is hard to explain to anybody how revolutionary this was when, like, nobody had ever done. I mean, the closest thing you could think of is like Tiger Mask in Japan. And like, you had to have had seen that, like, nobody was doing this. It was just completely unheard of. And, it felt real. Like, it felt like this guy actually was trying to kill people. And unfortunately for him, for better or for worse, he never really got signed to WCW or WWF in a full-time, meaningful way at his apex, like he probably should have. He got screwed out a few times, and his influence kind of surpasses his successes in the wrestling industry. But there was a time where he was like the darling of professional, and so much so that, like, I guess we could speak on this because it's New Japan centric. Like, he did have successes outside of ECW. He was in New Japan in 1995. He wrestled like 60 something shows. And it's kind of funny because there was, I remember in 2013, I was going back and I was rewatching the, some of the ECW television from 1995. And he was supposed to be in a triple threat tag team match at the main event of the pay-per-view. Him and Taz were either challenged. I think they were defending the tag team titles, and he took a New Japan booking instead.
Yeah.
And fucking Paul dangerously comes out and just buries him under the earth and, you know, says, this piece of shit took a booking in New Japan Pro Wrestling because he didn't think you were worth it. And you will never see this piece of garbage in this building. And bro, that was in April. By November, he was back in the company.
Yeah, he did like a small stint like WCW, and then, he was right back in ECW.
But, you know, he did hold the IWGP Junior title. That was like the max extent of his successes there. I mean, I don't know if his New Japan matches or anything to write home about. The best one that the two that I could think of is like he had a couple matches with Koji Kanemoto that were probably noteworthy.
Yeah, I think he beat Kanemoto for the belt. That's how he got the well.
He did, and then he dropped it back to him later that year in a match that was a title for title, UWA title versus IWGP. He did defend the title against Black Tiger 2, which was Eddie. I think that's probably the highlight of his time in the division. But, you know, New Japan was in the 90s kind of experimenting with other things. They brought him in at the height of his popularity, and he was breaking tables in New Japan when people were like, what the fuck is this? You know, if I had to point to matches of his that I really like, there's probably a lot, but the two that I'll just state that hold up that I think you should go watch if you've never seen him and Lightning Kid from 1993 on the Indies. That was like, that was the last indie match that Sean Waltman had before he joined WWF. And if you've never seen it, that was like an indie tape traders, like darling match where it was very state of the art pro wrestling at a time where nobody was doing what those two guys had ever done on US soil. And like, if you were a tape trader and you could get your hands on it, it was like, it was like a holy grail sort of thing. It was like, holy shit. Like, you got to see this match. And then the Born to Be Wired match with him and Terry Funk for the ECW title is still to this day, I think it's one of the craziest fucking matches I've ever seen in my life. Like,
he freaking wraps the barbed wire around his body. Like, oh my gosh.
Bro, he cut his bicep open off of he goes to do a splash in the corner and he cuts his bicep open. Instead of stopping the match,
he super glues it.
Super glued it and put tape around it. And at the end of the match, like, him and Terry are just so covered with barbed wire they can't finish the match, so he just covers him 1, 2, 3, and then they can't unwrap and they have to bring out bolt cutters, and like Terry is very close to getting like his eyeball cut up. It's one of the fucking craziest matches I've seen in my life. There are plenty of other, like, the matches he had in ECW with him and Rob Van Dam are probably up there.
Yeah, there's on YouTube you can find Sabu and RVD versus Jinjay Sasaki and Hayabusa.
You know, and that's a match people love. I think you should probably watch it because it was so mind blowing for the time. I think it kind of sucks, but it's whatever. But it is it's very death defying. They do crazy shit. And then him and Hayabusa in 94 from FMW. That's another one. Him and Too Cold Scorpio. There's a really crazy match from like 94 with him and McFoley, where it's their least famous match, but he has to keep bashing. He grabs a glass, like a real glass bottle, and he hits Mick over the head so many times he hits him like 6 times and it won't break. And he keeps fucking hitting him as hard as he can because they didn't use a gimmicked glass.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really great Sabu stuff out there, but like none of it's really going to hold up the way, like if you're looking for a 5-star classic, that's not what you're going to see. You know, you're watching him it's a vibes thing. Like, he's like the perfect music video wrestler.
Yeah. And
it is 60 years old. That's too young. You know, my understanding he's a terrible person, but you know, his contributions to pro wrestling are you know, it understated is the word.
Yeah.
Last bit of news. 2 matches have been added to Dominion, so the Never title is on the line. Konosuke Takeshita is defending against Oleg Boltin. They had an incredible match already, so the return match here. Hiroshi Tanahashi is also scheduled to face Yuya Uemura in one-on-one action. Last bit of news that I will add here. There was a produce show this past week. We didn't review it, but Taka Taichi Produce, Taka Taichi Mania 4. And there was some New Japan involvement here. We had Daiki Nagai and Yuji Nagata defeating Ryoma Sakamoto and Thunder Masami. There was also a match between El Desperado and AOI, and Desperado won. The main event was Hiroshi Tanahashi defeating Taka Michinoku, 15 minutes and 48 seconds. But the semi-main event was the match that everyone was talking about and probably one of the most highly recommended matches of the evening. Jun Akiyama and Zack Sabre Jr. wrestled Taichi and Tomohiro Ishii to a 30-minute time limit draw. And that's gotten really, really positive reviews. So that is going to do it for the news. We're at 3 hours. I know we got questions here, but we could do one of two things. We could either knock them out real quick or we could push them to next week. What do you think? I'm fine either way. I'm gonna let you decide.
Let's knock them out real quick.
Okay.
Def Wrangle 720 says we are approaching 6 months in New Japan 2025. Who do you think has improved so far?
A lot of guys.
Yeah. Gabe, Akira, Vegeta, just to name a few.
Callum.
Yeah, Callum Newman. Do you think Tsuji will create a faction with outside of New Japan or just the people currently on the roster? In my opinion, not that many cool factions that can be created with the current crop.
I think you're wrong. I think there's plenty of guys that you could do some really cool stuff with. It just depends on character motivations and utilization.
Yeah, I agree. And he says, let's say Shingo does create a faction. Who would you like to see in it? It has to be around 5 to 6 people.
I don't know. I know people want us to answer these. Look, that's not the type of question I want to answer. For me personally, do you have a faction, a dream faction for Shingo in your mind?
Hiromu, Tsuji,
LIJ Jr.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about who I'd want to see Shingo be in a faction with. Maybe I'll come back to it next week. Ibushigun says, do you think Hayabusa 2 will be in the Best of Super Juniors next year?
I would be open to that. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Then Dark Soldier says, think that we'll see a status quo shift coming Dominion. It's more me hoping it with all the fancy booking with Shingo, but I'm curious what you guys think.
I think that as far as the title is concerned, I think Shingo stands the best chance since David Finlay to potentially unseat Goto for sure.
Yeah, especially if there is some kind of faction coming. It says, is Oleg's coronation coming at Dominion, much like Cody Rhodes? I'm feeling it in my bones.
That's on the table too, I think. It's too early to make a firm commitment, but I think that I'm leaning that way right now.
Yeah, seems like a time for Oleg to get the win back and get some momentum going. And he says, forget wrestling. How hard did you laugh at the fire drill episode from The Office, especially with the cold open where Dwight sets the floor on fire?
I don't know if I've said this on the show, but The Office is my all-time favorite comfort comedy. I guess that sort of makes sense for a lot of people just because of the age we live in. I know, Jeremy, a few years ago, you went through and rewatched them all. Mm-hmm. Peacock has the Superfan episode, so all the deleted scenes cut out and entered back in extended versions. And I kind of, sometimes I don't like them, but generally speaking, I do. I think the fire drill episode is one of the top tier funniest episodes of The Office, especially the fallout from the initial Stanley heart attack when they do the CPR scene and they're doing the staying alive, and Dwight cuts the face off the mannequin. My favorite scenes in The Office are when everybody's involved and people are just doing
stuff,
riffing off of Yeah, like when it's just going on and on and on. But yeah, I think that episode fucking rules. My favorite, I think the best episode is Casino Night, though.
Yeah, that episode is great.
My wife's favorite episode is Dinner Party. We watch it pretty regularly.
That's fun. I love Scott's Tots. I know people don't like that one. I love that.
Bro, you got to watch Scott's Tots, the extended version. It's worse. It's worse. Yeah.
Then question from Doc, because I have a question for the pod. Jeremy, Josh, having just watched some Home Improvement and seeing the man's bathroom, I'm wondering if you guys have your own version of a dream bathroom.
Yes, I do. And I'll try to keep it short, but it would involve things like heated floors, all the amenities. If you ever saw the episode of Parks and Rec where Tom Haverford has all these amenities like chocolate covered almonds and like heated towels with like, I don't know, like eucalyptus and shit in them. Like that's what I want. But the biggest thing is the shower. I want the shower to have shower heads like 360 all the way around with like a sauna and like infrared and like a bench that you can sit on. And I want to be able to like, get freaky in there without having to worry about like just the one water source. I need it to be coming from like all places, like just enveloping me. That's what I'm looking for. Oh, I mean, and I do have a bidet, which is really incredible. I want a Japanese bidet and a wider toilet that can handle bigger loads than what mine can. So I need all of the all of it.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it. I actually just redone 2 bathrooms, and none of them have any of that stuff.
We have mood lighting too, but we have mood lighting, but it's like we bought this shit off Amazon. I want like the kind of mood lighting where it's like you press a button and it's like built into the walls and shit, and like have audio in the walls and stuff. All that.
Man, I need to get a better vision like you, man. You got it all mapped out.
I spent a lot of time in the bathroom. I want it to be a more enjoyable experience than it already is.
Oh, man. Tony Farrakhan says, for Young Boy, what is Mark Kerr's historical significance in MMA, or if a matter of his personal story being odd and dramatic enough to make for a good movie?
When Mark Kerr first joined the UFC, he was coming off the tail end of the Gracies leaving MMA in like 1995. So he, and then by 1997, we had just established like an actual heavyweight division. So there was like Gary Goodridge, Tank Abbott, Don Fry, Mark Coleman. There was all these, there was a whole host of people that had been involved in the tournaments, won or finaled in the tournaments. And we finally had a heavyweight champion for the first time. So there was all of these like contenders, but they were trying to build a new star. That's when they brought in Mark Kerr. Mark Kerr had just recently won the Vale Tudo champions in Brazil. And he was up to that point, one of, if not the most promising and established, young amateur wrestlers. He was like one of Kurt Angle's like most primary competitors, and he was actually the catalyst for why Kurt changed his style of wrestling, because Kurt was always an undersized heavyweight, and Mark Kerr was the guy that was too athletically gifted from a size perspective to where Angle had to rework his entire motivation for how he wrestled, and he started working more towards a speed oriented kind of point and longevity based approach, because he knew he couldn't pin some of these guys, including like Mark Kerr. So Mark Kerr comes into the UFC, just wrecks the first 2 tournaments, and everyone's expecting him to go in and fight some of the best champions. And this is right when SCG is like losing control of the company and pay-per-view is diminishing. There's no money. So he jumps to Japan, and he looked like a killer, but he never actually fought anybody that was meaningful in the UFC. Like he fought the 2 events, won both heavyweight tournaments, and then he dips. He goes to Japan. He has some really good showings, but they're kind of questionable. Like he beats Takada, which is like Takada's the biggest star in the company, but he's a pro wrestler. and he really hadn't fought too many actual meaningful guys, but like Mark Kerr was considered a number 1 or number 2 heavyweight in the world, along with like Igor Vovchanchin. And these 2 guys had never really fought anybody meaningful, but they were like the 2 boogeymen in the division. And at this time, HBO starts filming The Smashing Machine, and they think that they're catching Mark Kerr, who looks like he's going to be the Michael Jordan of this burgeoning sport called No Holds Barred / MMA. And they think they're catching him at the apex, and they don't realize that they're catching him at the down, like literally as his body is falling apart from painkiller addiction and from, 15 years of amateur wrestling and professional prize fighting. And his body just fucking breaks down, and everyone is expecting him to be the guy that's going to carry Pride and carry MMA and be the greatest fighter of all time. And he just fucking crumbles. So like in a certain sense, like did he have meaningful fights in Japan, and was he a historically important, significant character? Yes. Did he have a successful career? Yes. But he like, it's kind of a story of like unfulfilled potential, because he just fucking falls apart, and they capture it all on their documentary, The Smashing Machine, which is like, it becomes a cautionary tale, and they didn't anticipate it being a cautionary tale. They thought they were catching like the man
next big thing.
No, he fucking falls apart. He gets destroyed by Vov Chanchin. And then who fucks him up? Kazuyuki Fujita, a professional wrestler, the IWGP heavyweight champion, fucking knocks him out. When like, and that's Inokiism 101. It's all MMA and pro wrestling are all the same shit. Like, it's kind of crazy, but yeah.
Nice. Then last question from Barry Walsh. With Carl Fredericks gone from WWE, do you think he comes back to New Japan, and would he be a decent fit in the War Dogs with Clark and Gabe as a replacement for Jake Lee, who doesn't fit the group as well?
I would love it. I've always been a big Carl Anderson fan. I thought, or Carl Fredericks fan, and I thought he was underutilized in WWE, and I didn't think that it was a good environment for him to be able to grow into the type of performer that he needed to become. And I'd be very open to it from a fan perspective. I hope that something like that can happen.
Yeah, I'd be down with it. I mean, there's a lot of rumors that he was going to be kind of in Dave Finley's spot and leading this faction of the LA Dojo guys and being a part of the War Dogs. So, I'd be totally down for him to come back and join these guys and, finish up his career in New Japan. Well, that's it for the questions, and that's going to wrap the show up. Next week, we'll be back to review more of Best of the Super Juniors. Remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media, on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, and at Jeremy L. Donovan on Facebook.com. Follow us at Facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, on the Pro Black Guy, just Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. Join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans, and you can email me, Jeremy at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio with Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. Imps. WWE Adventure with MKT's Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Slings. Tunnel Talk with Allie and Leah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.